expect that such a tricky situation would be extinguished by that new recruit from Class 4 with just a few words. Brave and clever. This kid is quite remarkable. I must find out later what this kid's name is. At the same time, not far away at the flag platform, the instructor had a smile on his face. Old Bai, what has got you so happy? Gu Xiong approached curiously from the side. Bai Yuan pointed with his chin to the second row on the playground, where physical training was underway. You guys have that Zhao Pengfei, right? He just had a spar with that kid from the class, and they were really going at it. He didn't lose, right? What do you think? Gu Xiong chuckled at Bai Yuan's expression, clearly expecting this outcome. I told you, Zhao Pengfei has at least ranked in combat competitions in the unit. If he can't handle a rookie, that would be really embarrassing. Bai Yuan nodded. Yeah, if a seasoned soldier loses to a rookie, he might as well not show his face in this new recruit company anymore. Gu Xiong looked into the distance, stroking his chin. But it takes courage for a new recruit to challenge the squad leader right after arriving. With some polishing, he will definitely be a good soldier. Bai Yuan hummed in agreement, then revealed a meaningful smile. But compared to that kid, I found an even more interesting soldier. Oh, how so? Gu Xiong's interest was piqued. Bai Yuan smiled faintly. I can't say for sure yet. Need to observe a bit more. Gu Xiong rolled his eyes. These cultured folks love to keep people guessing. But once Bai Yuan left, a light suddenly flashed in Gu Xiong's mind. Wait, that sounded a bit familiar. Didn't I hear it somewhere before? Chapter 21 Despicable. Attacking during a toilet break. What the heck is going on? How come only a few chicken legs were brought back? Aren't we having twice-cooked pork tonight? Where's the meat? Did it get lost? What kind of dish is this? Green peppers stir-fried with onions. How are you managing your duties? You're simply useless. In the evening cafeteria, the small duty personnel from each class were nearly being roasted by their classmates. But they were like mute people eating bitter herbs, with no way to express their grievances. It wasn't that they were incompetent, but their opponents were too fearsome. Learning from the lessons of lunch, they rushed to the cafeteria as soon as they arrived, heading straight for the chicken legs and twice-cooked pork. But the little duty personnel from Class 4 was even quicker. Originally, everyone thought they would swarm together to attack. But that kid had no sense of fair play. They simply couldn't outpace him. The little they managed to bring back was only because they gave it their all. Meanwhile, the atmosphere at Class 4's table was in stark contrast to the others. Almost everyone had received 2 big chicken legs. And the portions of other dishes were also quite substantial. Everyone was enjoying their meal heartily. Haha, you really have a talent for being on duty. Zhao Pengfei looked at Qin Feng sitting opposite him, his face almost blooming with joy, especially when he saw the sharp gazes from the other squad leaders. His smile grew even brighter. The new recruit company had 9 classes, and there was a competitive relationship between them. Not only did they compete in chores and training, but also in meals. Now that Class 4 was at the top, eating the best, how could Zhao Pengfei not be happy? As for whether he would incur jealousy, he was completely unconcerned. In the military, being disliked by others is also a skill. Come on, eat up. Have more meat. Zhao Pengfei stood up and kept piling food into Qin Feng's bowl, almost to the point of overflowing. Qin Feng, whose training consumption was already high, naturally welcomed the food and enjoyed it immensely. This made Li Jiaxing, sitting nearby, green with envy, almost to the point of tears. Squad leader, you're being too biased. You even stood up to serve him food. I'm your most loyal assistant, squad leader. He then reached for a piece of meat. But just as his chopsticks were about to descend, the meat was snatched away by Chen Sanchi. Li Jiaxing forced himself to suppress the urge to curse and aimed for a slice of beef. Yet, before he could grab it, it was taken by Qi Meng. Damn it. You two can stop now. I'm also the assistant squad leader. Originally, Qin Feng planned to go easy tonight, letting the other squads take it easy. But those guys seemed to doubt his character, not only competing with him for food, but also someone sneaked in and kicked him. That really angered Qin Feng. He then quickly put his newly learned skills to use, and the group immediately quieted down, behaving like kindergarten kids. After dinner, the new recruits returned to the dormitory first. Zhao Pengfei, however, was in the restroom next to the cafeteria, taking a squat. He didn't know if it was due to getting older or something else. But he always felt the need to go right after eating, and it had become a habit. Sometimes he had to go twice a day. As Zhao Pengfei was enjoying his moment, suddenly a few uninvited guests arrived, squad leaders from the 2nd, 3rd, 5th, and 8th squads. What are you doing? Zhao Pengfei felt a chill and immediately turned around to glare at them. Are you spying while I'm in here? What's wrong? Didn't you eat enough at the cafeteria? Get lost. The 2nd squad leader angrily pointed at him. Zhao Pengfei, isn't your squad leader being a bit too much? Exactly. Your squad had the most meat at lunch, and now you're back for more at dinner. Are we ever going to be full? They had been looking forward to enjoying 2 big drumsticks after a long afternoon, only to have them all taken away by Zhao's squad leader. Zhao Pengfei, with a cigarette in his mouth, shook his head. Hey, what's wrong? Why don't you let your squad leader do the same as ours? The 8th squad leader couldn't hold back any longer and said angrily, if those quails could do it, do you think we need you to say that? Zhao Pengfei grinned smugly. Then I can't help you. In the military, those who have the strength get to eat well. That has been the rule for years. By the way, just so you know, tomorrow our squad S leader is a martial arts student. He the one I sparred with this afternoon and defeated quite badly. Damn, are you trying to wipe us out? They all knew how strong that guy was from the afternoon. If he was the one to get food tomorrow, not only would they not get meat, but their squad leader might end up getting beaten too. All the squad leaders instantly became furious. They were just trying to survive by eating, and yet Zhao Pengfei was being so ruthless. If you can tolerate this, you might as well be able to eat anything. A few people exchanged glances, rolled up their sleeves, and prepared to confront him. Zhao Pengfei, still squatting, was startled by their actions. Damn it. I haven't even finished my business. You guys are going too far. How dare you? You like meat, huh? You can take this. Just as the group seemed ready to act, Zhao Pengfei panicked. He was about to stand up when a sudden shout came from outside. What are you all doing? Seeing that it was their squad leader, they quickly stopped. Gu Xiong glared at the group and then glanced at Zhao Pengfei in the pit. How old are you? Still acting like a child? Get out of here. Yes, sir. A group of squad leaders shot Zhao Pengfei a glare and quickly left. Zhao Pengfei wiped himself casually and was about to sneak away when Gu Xiong grabbed him by the collar. Where do you think you're going? Zhao Pengfei, feeling guilty, turned back and gave him an awkward smile. Gu Xiong stared at him. Stop grinning at me like that. Zhao Pengfei immediately wiped the smile off his face and stood up straight. The smell in there was really unpleasant. Gu Xiong coldly glared at him. I'm asking you, what is going on with that little issue in your class? Are you behind this? No, I'm not. Zhao Pengfei shrugged his hands, looking innocent. Nonsense. Gu Xiong spat at him. It's not you. No new recruits would dare to act like this. He poked Zhao Pengfei's forehead. You've gone a bit too far. A little bit is fine, but doing this much, don't you think others would have a problem with it? This time I'll save you. Next time they just come up and throw a sack over you, give you a beating, and then toss you into the pit. That can't happen. Zhao Pengfei laughed. They might not even be able to beat me. Oh really? You think you're so tough, Zhao Pengfei? Gu Xiong's tone was exaggerated. What? Feeling like a king after showing off in front of the new recruits this afternoon. If you're so great, why did you only get third place in the combat competition? Shouldn't you have brought me back first place? Zhao Pengfei smiled awkwardly and fell silent. Gu Xiong punched him lightly. Starting tomorrow, tone it down a bit. Stop acting like you've been starving for years, as if you've never had meat. Yes. Squad leader. Get lost. Gu Xiong kicked him to send him off. But just as Zhao Pengfei was about to leave, he was called back. Lend me your lighter. Squad leader, this is my last one. Zhao Pengfei grimaced, thinking, are you eating lighters? I just gave you one yesterday, and now you want another. Gu Xiong's eyes were wide open. It's not like I want to return it. You're so stingy. Also, bring me some paper. I'm preparing to squat for a bit. Zhao Pengfei's eyelids twitched twice, reluctantly handing over the lighter and the remaining paper from his pocket. Gu Xiong lit a cigarette, waved his hand, and directly issued an eviction order. Zhao Pengfei glanced at him, hesitating whether to mention that the paper was used to wipe his mouth and had chili oil on it. Meanwhile, the new recruits returned to the dormitory and started chatting and joking around. In the military, aside from weekends, using mobile phones is strictly prohibited at all other times. There are no magazines or entertainment activities. Chatting has become the only way for everyone to relax. People from all over engage in casual conversations, jumping from games to comics, then to women, and finally to female teachers. The tone starts to shift towards the inappropriate, with all sorts of cheeky remarks flying around. Qin Feng was surprised to find that Li Jiaxing, who usually acted very serious, was the most excited when the topic turned risque. His enthusiasm, exaggerated expressions, and animated gestures were reminiscent of a well-known comedic character. Qin Feng shook his head, finding it hard to watch. He opened his locker and took out a bottle of medicated oil, tossing it over to Qi Meng with a shout. Who can tell me what color this wall is? With a whoosh, something flew through the air. Qi Meng quickly caught it, surprised by the sudden appearance of the medicated oil. Qin Feng smiled at him. I brought it from home. Go ahead and use it. In that moment, Qi Meng felt an indescribable gratitude. Thanks, he said, quickly taking off his shirt and opening the bottle. However, as soon as he removed his shirt, the shocking bruises on his body were revealed. His arms, back, and stomach were all a deep red, especially the bruises on his chest, which had turned a purplish hue. Everyone was stunned to see how badly Qi Meng was injured. Looking at the bruises, Qin Feng couldn't help but feel a sense of concern. This also gave him a new understanding of Zhao Pengfei's strength. Indeed, the veteran squad leaders were no pushovers, especially those capable of leading new recruits, as they must be exceptional in their respective units. Seeing Qi Meng's injuries, everyone's gaze shifted back to Qin Feng. Fortunately, he had intervened in time to prevent Qi Meng from overexerting himself further. If the fight had continued, he would have definitely been taken to the hospital. What surprised them even more was how resilient Qi Meng was, enduring an entire afternoon of training despite his bruises without a single complaint. If he hadn't taken off his shirt, no one would have noticed. Hey, be gentle. That hurts. Qi Ming winced as Chen Sanchi poked him, causing him to suck in his breath. Chen Sanchi stood there, unsure of what to do. I just tapped you lightly. I didn't mean to hurt you. That still hurts. In front of others, Qi Ming tried to maintain his composure. But once back in the dormitory, he couldn't keep up the act. There was no way it didn't hurt given his condition. However, when outside, one had to maintain their image, so he endured the pain. Seeing Qi Ming grimacing, everyone couldn't help but smile wryly, fully understanding the meaning of the saying about sacrificing face and suffering in silence. Qi Ming, to be honest, are you practicing Baji Quan or some counterfeit version of Jin's Hangzhou? After taking so many hits, you still look like nothing's wrong. If it were me, I would have probably collapsed by now. Yeah, your injuries are quite exaggerated. Fortunately, Qin Feng held you back at that time. Otherwise, you would have been beaten to death by the squad leader. This is just the beginning? Qi Ming said nonchalantly. The squad leader's punches are powerful, but my years of training in martial arts aren't for nothing. I don't know about others, but at least I can last another half a minute before going down. Everyone laughed, but it was a forced laugh. They thought it would be better to go down early. Li Jiejun, who already had a grudge against Qi Ming, especially after he had snatched food from him in the cafeteria, immediately took on the role of the squad leader and started criticizing him. Qi Ming, do you think it's glorious to get beaten up like this by the squad leader? Let me tell you. Don't think that just because you've practiced for a few years, you're invincible. There are always people better than you. Who is looking for a fight? Qi Ming was fuming inside but chose to ignore him. But the more he ignored, the more energized Li Jiejun became. You think I'm trying not to hurt you? You don't even know your own strength. You deserve to get beaten up. Damn it, who are you calling out? Qi Ming stood up angrily from the stool. But the movement pulled at his injured waist and caused him pain. Li Jiejun wasn't afraid of him at all. He even deliberately poked at Qi Ming's injury. Getting beaten up like a dog. Isn't that looking for a fight? You can only talk back. You're just a mouthpiece. Get lost. Qi Ming's temper flared. At least I still dare to stand up. Do you have the guts to do it? Even if you had 10 times the courage. You wouldn't dare. Li Jiejun was also furious. Why should I? Do you think everyone is like you, clueless? I'm the vice squad leader. I rely on my brain. And I have to consider the bigger picture. Complete nonsense. Qi Ming pointed at his nose and cursed. If it weren't for Qin Feng not wanting to do it, do you think you would even have the chance? What are you even worth? Just because your family has a bit of money, you think you're so great? Without money, you wouldn't even be able to find someone to help you. Damn it. Li Jiejun's anger was completely ignited, and he immediately rolled up his sleeves, ready to fight Qi Ming. Although Qi Ming was injured, he was also not someone to be trifled with. Damn it, I can't beat the squad leader. But I can't lose to you, you little brat. As the two were about to engage in a physical conflict, a low growl interrupted them. Have you had enough? Qin Feng stood between them, speaking coldly. Although Qi Ming was furious, he still gave Qin Feng some respect. Qin Feng, don't get involved in this. I've been annoyed by him for a long time. Damn it. He acts like he has something just because he has a bit of family money. Buzzing around like a fly, as if no one else has ever been to Starbucks. Li Jiejun admired Qin Feng, but he had no respect for Qi Ming, whom he considered a fool. It was one thing to clash with him, but a dog that had been beaten up by the squad leader still dared to bark at him? Qin Feng, tell me, isn't what I just said the truth? Someone who doesn't even know their own limits dares to challenge the squad leader. Getting beaten to death would be totally deserved. Damn. You got the guts to say that again. You totally deserve to get beaten up, you bastard. In the next second, Qi Ming was holding a small stool. He was completely baffled, turning to stare blankly at Qin Feng. Li Jiaxing was also startled by Qin Feng's action of handing the stool to Qi Ming. Wait, bro. Aren't you here to break up the fight? Why are you handing out tools for trouble? Go on. Qin Feng gave Qi Ming a push. Didn't you want to take him on? With a weapon, it's way easier. Just aim for his face. Qi Ming froze on the spot, glancing awkwardly at Li Jiaxing. The reasoning behind Qin Feng's move was actually quite simple. When people are arguing fiercely over opening a window, if you help them tear the roof off instead, they'll immediately settle down. It's like when parents are fighting intensely. If you make an even bigger scene and urge them to get a divorce, they'll stop arguing right away. Clap, clap, clap. Suddenly, an abrupt round of applause broke the silence. Everyone turned to see Zhao Pengfei standing like a ghost outside the corridor window, a chilling smile on his face. At that moment, the dormitory fell silent as if someone had hit the mute button, sending shivers down everyone's spine, especially Qi Ming and Li Jiaxing, whose skin crawled at the sight of Zhao Pengfei's smile. Instantly, they felt like they'd been caught slacking off during evening self-study by their homeroom teacher. Without a second thought, Qi Ming quickly put down the stool, and both stood properly in place. Qin Feng stepped aside to avoid getting caught in the crossfire if the two were scolded. Zhao Pengfei entered the dormitory, his cold gaze fixed on Qi Ming and Li Jiaxing. What were you two doing just now? Monitor, we're just chatting. Li Jiaxing added promptly, and Qi Ming immediately nodded in agreement. Chatting? Zhao Pengfei narrowed his eyes. What were you chatting about? Let me join in. I'd like to know what topic could get so loud and involve shoving. The two fell completely silent. Zhao Pengfei turned to Qi Ming and asked, Answer me this. What color is this wall? White. Qi Ming glanced at it and replied, Wrong. Zhao Pengfei then looked at Li Jiaxing, signaling him to answer. Gray. Also wrong. Black. Even more wrong. Then, Zhao Pengfei dragged both of them to the wall, making them face it and reflect on their mistakes. You can't even agree on the color of this wall, and you have the nerve to argue? Now, face this wall and say I'm sorry, I was wrong 1,000 times. Next, he turned to Qin Feng. You, go fetch a bucket of water. Though Qin Feng didn't know what the monitor was planning, he immediately complied. Soon, he returned with a bucket of water. Zhao Pengfei poured it into 2 basins, making Qi Ming and Li Jiaxing hold them overhead while continuing their apologies. Watching the two trembling as they held the yellow basins filled with water above their heads, repeatedly apologizing to the snow-white wall, Qin Feng finally understood the answer to that question. The color of the wall doesn't matter. What's important is that the class leader says what color it is. Suddenly, Zhao Pengfei turned to look at everyone, scaring them all into holding their breath. Here, I want to emphasize again that I do not want to see any discordant scenes in our class. If you feel uncomfortable or have grievances, come to me, and I'll help you out. I also hope you won't challenge my bottom line, understand? Yes. Louder. Haven't you eaten dinner? Yes. All the new recruits shouted at the top of their lungs, their voices so loud that it almost shattered the glass. Zhao Pengfei nodded in satisfaction and said to Qin Feng, Come with me. Yes. Before leaving, Zhao Pengfei reminded the two, 1,000 times, not one less. If you miss even one, I'll come back and deal with you. Yes, class leader. I'm sorry, I was wrong. We really made a mistake. Soon, Qin Feng followed Zhao Pengfei to the rooftop. Finding a sheltered spot, Zhao Pengfei took out a box of matches and lit a cigarette for himself. He then held up the box of cigarettes towards Qin Feng. Want one? Qin Feng shook his head, indicating he wouldn't. Zhao Pengfei continued to coax him, saying, What kind of young man doesn't do this? How can you have no interests or hobbies at all? Qin Feng still didn't reach for it, but looked at him meaningfully. Class leader. If I reach for one, will you suddenly say, I knew you smoked? Damn it. Zhao Pengfei nearly dropped the cigarette in his hand. Can you read minds or something? You actually predicted my prediction. Seeing the astonished look on Zhao Pengfei's face, Qin Feng knew he had guessed right. Where did you learn this? I read it in a novel. Zhao Pengfei's eyelid twitched, clearly speechless. All right, I want to play those games. Just take it and smoke. Really? When have I ever lied to you? Stop hesitating, it's just a cigarette. Qin Feng thought about it. Since he had already been exposed, continuing would be pointless. But as he reached out with 2 fingers, a chestnut suddenly fell from the sky. Got you. You do smoke. Qin Feng covered his head, the pain making him grit his teeth. Damn it, why don't you follow the script? That's right, I'm not following the script. Zhao Pengfei held the cigarette with a grin, looking like a worn-out shoe. So what if you guessed it? You think you can take advantage of an old soldier? Dream on. Chapter 23. Having ambition, I like it. Qin Feng, gritting his teeth, silently cursed the veteran for not playing fair. Damn it, I had already predicted it. You still pulled this trick? Zhao Pengfei, on the other hand, looked quite pleased with himself. He had used this trick countless times, always successful. How could he stumble against this kid? Fortunately, Zhao Pengfei didn't set any more traps afterward. Qin Feng finally managed to get the cigarette into his mouth without further incident. Zhao Pengfei exhaled smoke while keeping an eye on Qin Feng's smoking actions. Under the shroud of smoke, Qin Feng's gaze exuded a sense of weathered experience. Despite being only 19 years old, his demeanor was filled with a maturity far beyond his age. While it's true that some young people mature early, isn't he perhaps a bit too advanced? Zhao Pengfei categorized Qin Feng's composure, developed through 2 lifetimes, as a result of having engaged in many romantic relationships. Qin Feng, you are even more capable than I imagined. Class monitor, if you praise me like this, I might get proud. Qin Feng replied modestly with a smile. Proud? Zhao Pengfei rolled his eyes in exasperation. You won't even take the vice monitor position. Do you think I'm worried about you getting proud? I actually wish you would be proud for once. Qin Feng chuckled awkwardly, not continuing the conversation. But Zhao Pengfei was determined to get to the bottom of it. Tell me, why won't you be the vice monitor? Don't give me excuses about not having enough ability or skills. Zhao Pengfei stared at him intently. From your days of serving meals, it's clear you are bold, meticulous, and have great ideas. And how you handled those 2 guys in the dorm earlier, I saw everything. Forget about military skills and physical fitness. With your abilities, you could easily be a class monitor. Qin Feng remained silent, seemingly pondering how to respond. Zhao Pengfei continued to watch him. So, I want to hear the truth. Is it because you're afraid of being manipulated by me? Upon hearing Qin Feng's slightly awkward smile, Zhao Pengfei paused for a moment before bursting into laughter, pointing at him. You little rascal. Ha ha, you're really clever. I was wondering why you didn't choose yourself and instead recommended Li Jiaxing. You want him to be the frontline soldier, stepping on all the mines first, right? Qin Feng neither confirmed nor denied it. Li Jiaxing did want to be the class monitor. He was just going along with it. As for other reasons, Qin Feng could only say that Li Jiaxing was a great person and very selfless. For instance, Li Jiaxing had just demonstrated this by volunteering himself for the tough tasks, making Qin Feng realize that in the military, the color of the walls is dictated by the class monitor. Is there any other reason? Zhao Pengfei continued to inquire. Qin Feng answered honestly, I don't want to waste time on meaningless things. I want to focus more on training and improving my own abilities. Zhao Pengfei patted his arm and said meaningfully, You're mistaken about this. Being the vice monitor and focusing on training are never contradictory. In fact, you can learn much more. I want to elaborate further. I hope you can feel it for yourself. Qin Feng looked at him in surprise. Class monitor, you can't be. Exactly. Zhao Pengfei nodded seriously. From the very beginning, you were the most suitable candidate for vice monitor in my mind. This week is an exception since there aren't many days left. In next week's class meeting, I will announce that you will take the vice monitor position. This is an order, and there is no room for negotiation. Qin Feng smiled helplessly. The class monitor's orders are indeed not easy to refuse. In the military, obeying orders is a soldier's duty. Since the order has been given, Qin Feng must obey, even if he is reluctant. Zhao Pengfei could tell that he wasn't entirely willing, so he spoke earnestly. Qin Feng, I can see you have ambitions. And you are definitely not the type to just spend a couple of years in the army and leave without a care. You have the capability, so don't hold back. Although the position of deputy squad leader is just a nominal role, the benefits you gain from it will be significant. Zhao Pengfei glanced at the shoulder insignia with one thick and one thin stripe, plus 2 rifles, indicating a third-level non-commissioned officer. A hint of helplessness appeared on his face. If only I had understood this principle sooner. If someone had awakened me, I might have avoided years of detours. A soldier who can manage others and one who is managed are often on completely different paths in terms of thoughts, mindset, and development. With different perspectives, the way problems are considered also varies. Squad leader, I will do well in this role as deputy squad leader. Qin Feng was deeply grateful for the squad leader's guidance. But about Li Jiajian, you don't need to worry about that. Zhao Pengfei waved his hand. In the army, it's always the capable who rise to the top. Those who can't should leave. Moreover, he only became the acting deputy because you were unwilling to take the position, and I reluctantly allowed him to step up. That kid really isn't cut out for this. Today is Friday. I plan to let him work for a couple more days just to let him have a taste of it. Starting next week, we will have internal assessments. And you must help me carry the load. Yes. Qin Feng stood at attention and saluted. Zhao Pengfei continued with a smile. Yesterday, I asked you what your future plans in the army were, and you said you weren't sure yet. What about now? Any plans? Work hard and strive for improvement every day. Hearing Qin Feng's response, Zhao Pengfei smiled with satisfaction. Can you be more specific? Make contributions and gain glory. Wow. Zhao Pengfei's expression turned to one of shock. I knew you had ambition, but having ambition without a way to achieve it won't work. In peacetime, it's not easy to achieve merit, and glory isn't easily obtained. I've been in the army for so many years, and I've only earned 2 third-class merits. You're still far from those 8 words. Qin Feng's curiosity was immediately piqued. Since he had never served, he didn't have a thorough understanding of many aspects of military life. Although he often heard about promotions and educational opportunities, he wasn't clear on the specifics of how to advance, the pathways available, or the fastest methods. Therefore, he really needed a guide to help him find direction and avoid making mistakes that could lead him astray. Squad leader, what is your unit called? Zhao Pengfei paused for a moment, looking at him in surprise. Did you guess that I wanted to bring you to the unit? Qin Feng shook his head. No? Then how do you know? You just told me. Zhao Pengfei was momentarily stunned, then couldn't help but laugh. This kid's intelligence was outrageous. He even managed to turn the conversation around. You little rascal. Squad leader, I was wrong. I shouldn't have tried to be clever or fish for your words. Zhao Pengfei was once again at a loss for words, struggling to find an opportunity to voice his criticism. Never mind. Let us get straight to the point. The unit I'm in is called the Steel Knife Company. Are you interested in joining? Qin Feng paused for a moment. Steel Knife Company? What kind of unit is that? He had only heard of names like the Steel 7 Company and the Big Knife Company, but he had never heard of the Steel Knife Company. Noticing that Qin Feng seemed a bit confused, Zhao Pengfei chuckled but didn't elaborate much. For now, that is all I can share with you, as our company is quite unique and different from any other unit in the regiment. So, the choice is yours. Of course. If you don't want to, I won't force you. Squad leader, if I join you, will I have the chance to pursue further studies and promotions? Zhao Pengfei laughed heartily. No matter who you follow, you'll have the opportunity to pursue further studies and promotions. That's the promotion pathway in the army. And every grassroots soldier is entitled to it. Qin Feng smiled. Then I'll go with you. Zhao Pengfei was surprised. You agreed so decisively? Aren't you going to think it over? What if our company is not that great? Qin Feng replied with a smile. If you can train such an outstanding non-commissioned officer like yourself, I doubt the steel knife company is weak. Besides, if I don't agree, what if you make things difficult for me later? Damn it. Zhao Pengfei kicked out, but was nimbly dodged by Qin Feng. The two were playfully bantering, looking like a pair of longtime friends. Before long, Zhao Pengfei and Qin Feng returned to the second floor. However, the dormitory was empty, and there was no sign of Qi Ming and Li Jiaxing. Where are those two? Zhao Pengfei frowned slightly. A soldier quickly explained that they had been called away by the instructor. It turned out that shortly after Zhao Pengfei and Qin Feng left, Bai Yuan just happened to be on a patrol. After briefly understanding the situation, he took them back to the office. The instructor was responsible for the political work in the unit, and if a new recruit made a mistake, he would definitely intervene. Zhao Pengfei wasn't worried at all. He hadn't laid a hand on them or administered any punishment. At most, they would just have to stand for a while. Even if the instructor talked to him later, Zhao Pengfei was completely unbothered. At 7:30, the news broadcast ended. The new recruits of the 4th Squad returned to the classroom one after another with small stools. In the army, it was a routine to watch the news broadcast almost every day to prevent detachment from society. It was important to understand national affairs, family matters, and global issues. Moreover, after watching the news, they had to provide commentary. The process was similar to being called on by a teacher to recite texts in school, where everyone would sit silently. At this moment, Li Jiaxing and Qi Ming had returned from the instructor's office. Zhao Pengfei called the two aside and asked, "Instructor talked to you?" "Yes, he did." "You two didn't take the opportunity to say anything bad about me, did you?" No, absolutely not." The two were startled and quickly shook their heads in denial. They wouldn't dare do such a thing even if they had 10 times the courage. Good. Zhao Pengfei smiled and patted them. So, do you both now have a deep understanding of your mistakes? Yes, we do. The two nodded vigorously like chicks pecking at rice. They also assured that they would never dare to do it again and promised to get along like family. Zhao Pengfei smiled, looking very happy. Just talking is not enough. It has to be put into practice. As your squad leader, I have the duty to make you understand what brotherhood and camaraderie mean. He turned to Qi Ming. You take off your clothes. Huh? Qi Ming stared in shock, almost thinking he had misheard. Qin Feng and the other new recruits were equally confused, completely unable to understand what Zhao Pengfei was trying to do. Qi Ming covered his chest, a mix of vigilance and panic. Squad leader, what do you want to do? Zhao Pengfei raised his fist, cracking it ominously in front of him, squinting as he spoke each word clearly. Immediately, right now, take off your clothes. Don't make me repeat myself. Chapter 24. Have you watched too many romance novels? Why can you ship anything? Ouch. Li Jiaxing, you're hurting me. Be gentle. A little gentler. I'm sorry. Does it still hurt now? It doesn't hurt anymore. Not at all. In the future, if I get hurt, can I ask you to help me apply the medicine? Sure. Then let us make a pinky promise. 100 years without changing. In the dormitory, the smell of male hormones gradually turned the atmosphere ambiguous. Watching Li Jiaxing squatting on the ground, applying ointment to Qi Ming's injuries. All the new recruits from Class 4 wore motherly smiles. They all imagined the scene with flirtatious dialogues in their minds. Right now, Li Jiaxing was carefully treating the wounds on Qi Ming's chest. This area was also the most severely injured part of Qi Ming's body. The cold ointment applied to the bruise made Qi Ming close his eyes and grit his teeth due to the pain. However, the burning sensation made him involuntarily let out a trembling sound from his throat. Oh dear. Seeing this scene, the smiles on everyone's faces grew even more suggestive. Qin Feng felt a chill run down his spine, and goosebumps covered his body. He thought to himself, have you all watched too many romance novels? How can you enjoy such a philosophical scene so much? They might as well pull out some sunflower seeds and enjoy the show. Just moments ago, Zhao Pengfei had asked Qi Ming to take off his shirt, leaving him in just his shorts, so that Li Jiaxing could apply the ointment carefully. They had to rub it in thoroughly to disperse the bruise and maximize the ointment's effect. At first, it was fine, but as they continued, the atmosphere started to shift. Phrases like "be gentler" and "that's not okay" kept slipping out. Watching the two of them in what seemed like a deep bond of camaraderie, Qin Feng shivered again, secretly cursing Zhao Pengfei's twisted sense of humor. This method was 100 times more terrifying than corporal punishment. For straight men, it was a soul-crushing experience. If things went poorly, their bond might just reach a whole new level. At this moment, Qin Feng even felt that the fluorescent lights above them had inexplicably turned into pink bulbs. He feared that as they continued rubbing, they would end up hugging each other, embraced together. Then, the background music would start playing a sentimental tune. Oh my love. My darling, does it hurt? In the music imagined by Qin Feng, Li Jiaxing slowly raised his head. Qi Ming, feeling the heat in his chest, shyly shook his head. It's okay, actually quite comfortable. Li Jiaxing also shyly responded with a sound, drawing circles with his hand while saying, If it hurts, just tell me. I can go lighter. Good. Everyone exclaimed in surprise, their smiles even more exuberant. Chen Sanchi covered his eyes with his hands, not daring to look directly, but occasionally peeking through his fingers. Qin Feng, on the other hand, was still scrunching his face, rubbing the goosebumps on his arms. You guys are really something. Not picky at all. Under the intense gaze of so many eyes, Li Jiaqing couldn't take it anymore and turned back to glare. What else with the surprise? You guys have such dirty minds. This is called camaraderie, brotherly love, do you understand? Ah, right. Everyone nodded with grinning faces. But their expressions still showed that they were just enjoying the spectacle. Clearly, everyone had turned into a spectator, eager to find amusement in their situation. Although Qi Ming usually acted carefree, his face was as red as a monkey's bottom at this moment. He never expected that applying some ointment could attract such attention. Socially dead, extremely socially dead. Thus, he could only plead with Zhao Pengfei. Class leader, how about we stop here? Zhao Pengfei had no intention of letting him off easily. No way, every part of you has to be treated. What if something gets left behind and affects your training? He then looked at Li Jiaqing. Li Jiaqing, you are now acting vice class leader. Caring for your comrades is your responsibility and duty. The upper body is done, but the lower body still needs treatment. Hurry up. Don't stall here and take advantage of Qi Ming. Li Jiaqing's face was so red it seemed like it would bleed, wishing he could find a hole to hide in. How am I taking advantage? I'm just following your orders. But there was no way out. The class leader had given the order, and he could only comply. So, Li Jiaqing poured some ointment into his hand again. Then, he slowly reached towards the bruise on Qi Ming's inner thigh. In the next second, Qi Ming's body reacted as if electrocuted, his eyes widening. He gripped the edge of the stool tightly, every hair on his body standing on end. Even his toes were tense. The pace in the military was fast, and in the blink of an eye, 2 days had passed. That morning, everyone unusually got to sleep in for an extra half hour. It wasn't that the class leader was being merciful, it was because it was the weekend. However, sleeping in just meant they could sleep until 6 o'clock before the wake-up call. After that, it was still the usual routine of tidying up, drills, and having breakfast. After returning from the cafeteria, Zhao Pengfei brought a stack of regulations for everyone to memorize. Many of them had poor academic performance and had joined the military because they couldn't focus on studying. They never expected that after joining the military, they would still have to memorize texts. What a nightmare. But they didn't realize this was just the beginning. A qualified soldier needs to master a vast array of knowledge and skills. Additionally, the training camp includes courses on political ideology, and there are periodic exams as well. Qin Feng wasn't fond of rote memorization. In his previous life, he often faced punishment for not being able to recite texts during school. In fact, when he first arrived in this world, he was relieved that it wasn't during the college entrance examination, or he might have really submitted a blank paper. Everything he learned before was practically given back to the teachers. Shouldn't they refund me some tuition? However, with the help of his special abilities, this task has become much easier. Don't just look, read it out loud. Zhao Pengfei's command echoed, and the dormitory of the 4th Squad was immediately filled with a series of painful-sounding hums. Soldier's duty. The first point is to implement strict military governance and strengthen discipline to maintain and consolidate our ironclad rules. Many were reading aloud while picking their noses, their eyes wandering around, resembling those who daydream in early morning classes. Qin Feng, Qin Feng, Qin Feng. While Qin Feng was reciting, he suddenly heard someone calling his name nearby. He glanced over and saw it was Chen Sanchi. But since the squad leader was watching from the front, he could only pretend not to hear. Feng, Feng, Feng. Chen Sanchi called him again in a lowered voice. Qin Feng slightly lowered his head and used his book to cover his face, asking, "What is it?" Chen Sanchi, feeling a bit shy, asked, "I just wanted to know. Since today is Sunday, will the squad leader give out phones?" Qin Feng then remembered that phones were usually distributed on weekends in the military. However, since everyone had only arrived on Thursday night and their phones had been collected for just a few days, he truly didn't know if they would be distributed this weekend. Not sure. Oh, okay then. Chen Sanchi looked a bit disappointed, saying, "I was hoping that when the phones are handed out, I could call home and talk to my 7th uncle, 3rd nephew, 2nd aunt, and big cousin." Suddenly, a pillow flew and hit Chen Sanchi on the head, causing him to yelp in pain. "Stand up." Zhao Pengfei glared at him coldly. "Chen Sanchi, I asked you to recite, and you're mumbling over there?" "Squad leader, I just wanted to ask if we would get our phones today. I wanted to call my relatives," Chen Sanchi said, holding his head, looking pitiful as he stood up. But before Zhao Pengfei could respond, the 2nd platoon leader shouted from outside the door, "4th Squad, go to the company office to collect your phones." "Got it." Zhao Pengfei stood up and told everyone, "Continue reciting, don't stop, and definitely don't whisper to each other." However, just as he stepped into the hallway, excited shouts erupted from the dormitory behind him. "Yay, we're getting our phones. We're getting our phones." Zhao Pengfei paused for a moment, shaking his head with a smile. What a bunch of rookies. Chapter 25. Phones distributed on the weekend. Good news only, we're getting our phones, Zhao Pingfei announced. And the new recruits of the 4th Squad immediately gathered around excitedly. Each of them rubbed their hands together, seemingly unable to wait any longer. But Zhao Pingfei did not hand out the phones immediately. Instead, he raised his hand to signal them to wait, emphasizing the discipline requirements of the troops. It's allowed to make phone calls to parents, check information, and play some light games to relax. However, absolutely no sending of any leaked images to the outside. No posting on social media, no browsing inappropriate websites, and definitely no participating in online gambling. All right, we got it. Every new recruit eagerly nodded in agreement. They hoped Zhao Pingfei would stop talking and quickly hand over the phones. They weren't foolish. They knew perfectly well which activities were permissible and which weren't in the military. Lastly, one more point. Everyone was a bit speechless. How long is this going to go on? Even Qin Feng felt that today as squad leader was being overly talkative. Usually, Zhao Pingfei was decisive and spoke quickly and concisely, but today he seemed a bit like a nagging mother. Zhao Pingfei knew everyone was a bit impatient, but he patiently reminded everyone, when you call home later, don't complain to your parents about how tough it is in the military, and don't show any negative emotions. Why? Someone asked, confused. Many others shared the same question. They thought, what is wrong with letting their parents know the real situation in the military? It's not like they were complaining to outsiders. What is the big deal? But Qin Feng understood the reason behind it. New recruits had just joined the military, and it was the time when their parents were most worried. With thousands of miles between them and no way to get timely updates about their sons, parents could easily become anxious, fearing their child might be bullied in the military. At such times, a casual complaint could lead to a week of sleepless nights for the parents. There's an old saying, share good news, not worries. Zhao Pingfei, usually strict, spoke earnestly. I know you've faced many hardships you've never experienced before these days, and you must have a lot to vent to your parents. But have you considered the consequences of venting your frustrations? Everyone fell silent, staring at him intently. Zhao Pingfei explained seriously. Do you want your parents to worry about you losing sleep and appetite? Or do you want them to feel proud that their son is a strong man who can endure hardships? I believe you can make a clear judgment on this matter. In fact, many originally planned to complain to their families. But after hearing Zhao Pingfei's words, they realized they were no longer children. Now they were not only adults, but also proud members of the People's Liberation Army. Although they might not be able to share the burden with their parents yet, at the very least, they shouldn't add to their worries. Understood, squad leader. We will pay attention. Zhao Pingfei nodded. Now, those whose names I call, come here to collect your phones. Each phone had a sticky note on the back with a name for easy identification. Qi Meng, here. Chen Sanqi, present. Qin Feng. When Qin Feng went to grab his phone, Zhao Pingfei gave him a meaningful glance. It seemed he had something to say, but after thinking it over, he held back. The new recruits who received their phones immediately looked thrilled, as if they had found treasure, with joyful smiles on their faces. Most of them called home right away to share what had happened in the military recently. For example, Li Jiaxing quickly called his parents after getting his phone, boasting about how outstanding he was in the army and how much he was appreciated by the leaders. He had become a squad leader, managing a large group of people, and felt quite impressive in the military. He then called his friends, similarly exaggerating his experiences. He even claimed that he had caught the attention of special forces and was about to become a special soldier. He was determined to make himself sound as amazing and outrageous as possible, successfully impressing his friends. It's worth mentioning that many who had served in the military often liked to boast about being special forces after returning home. Why? Because it sounds cool. By the end of his bragging, Li Jiaxing almost believed himself, feeling that his future in the military was bright and promising. He even sent a text to his ex-girlfriend saying, "You ignored me before, but now you can't reach my level." While there were those like Li Jiaxing who were flashy and showy, there were also honest and down-to-earth individuals. Qi Meng first called his grandparents to check on their health. Then he called his mentor from the martial arts school to tell him about his experiences in the military and how he had lost to an old soldier in sparring. In front of outsiders, he maintained a tough exterior. He was a hard man who wouldn't shed tears. But with his mentor, he secretly wiped away tears, crying like a child. The teacher on the other end didn't criticize him, but encouraged him not to be discouraged, saying he still had a long way to go and should work hard in the military to improve himself. One day, he would stand on a bigger stage and achieve greater success. The teacher also reminded him to stay true to himself, build good relationships with superiors, and foster camaraderie with his comrades. Hearing the phrase caring for each other, Qi Meng instinctively glanced at Li Jiaxing, then quickly looked away, appearing shy. Much like a girl experiencing her first crush. "Mom, don't worry about me. I'm doing great in the military. I had meat buns for breakfast, beef last night, fried meatballs, and even shrimp. There's a guy in our class named Qin Feng. He is amazing, knows everything, and is really smart. I'm going to learn from him. The food is good, we have fans and air conditioning, and nobody bullies me. Everyone is really nice. Oh, And our squad leader is Zhao Pengfei. We're from the same hometown. Yes, we're from Nanhe, Luoyang. He can be strict, but we know he means well. Chen Sanchi sat on a small stool, grinning widely like a weeble, holding a coolpad phone, swaying back and forth as he called home. He chatted with his family about everything, even mentioning how many eggs he had for breakfast. However, he didn't mention a single bit about the hardships during training or the tears shed when being scolded. He remembered the squad leader's advice and didn't want his family to worry about him. It was enough for them to be happy for him. Some things were better kept to himself. At least, Chen Sanchi felt that he had truly grown up at that moment. Of course, there were a few people who, upon receiving the call, didn't immediately contact their families. Instead, they chose to read novels, watch videos, or even play cards on their phones. It wasn't that they were heartless or didn't think about home. It was just that their phones were only collected before lunch, so there was no rush. Nowadays, the country's strength is flourishing, and the prospects for the military are becoming better and better. Scientific training and leadership are being continuously implemented. Seriousness, tension, liveliness, and unity have always been the main themes of the military. Saturday mornings are specifically set aside for the new recruits to relax. Everyone was either playing on their phones or playing chess. In the multifunctional study room, some were playing cards, and the cultural and entertainment activities were quite diverse. At that moment, Qin Feng walked to the window and took out his phone from his pocket. This was an era where smartphones were rapidly becoming popular. Those with better conditions, like Li Jiaxing, used high-end Sony devices. Those with ordinary conditions had many choices for 1,000 yuan smartphones, such as Mi 3, Coolpad, or Giant. If all else fails, one could settle for a low-end model. It is worth mentioning that the use of Apple and Samsung phones is not allowed in the military. As for the reason, those who understand, understand. Currently, Qin Feng was using a Nokia 730. The parallel world he had traversed to was highly similar to Blue Star. If nothing unexpected happens, the Nokia brand would soon fade from public view. Many people from the post-2000 generation might not be familiar with this brand. However, it is a shared memory for many from the 80s and 90s, and it was undoubtedly the leader in the mobile phone industry back in the day. The coolest thing is that this device could even crack walnuts. How impressive is that? Long pressing the power button, the familiar ringtone played. The classic Nokia startup animation appeared immediately. This familiar feeling made Qin Feng unable to help but smile slightly. After booting up, the 3G data network quickly connected automatically. But the next second, a plethora of red dots suddenly popped up on the WeChat, QQ, and SMS icons on the screen. Looking at the over 100 missed calls in his contacts, Qin Feng's eyes twitched wildly, and he immediately had a bad feeling. Chapter 26, The Righteous Li Jiaxing. I really shouldn't eat alone. Select all, delete. Select all, delete. Still select all, continue deleting. Qin Feng spent a full 10 minutes deleting all those terrifying messages. He wiped the cold sweat from his forehead and let out a slight sigh of relief. Luckily, it was here, and they couldn't find him. Otherwise, he might really come over with a watermelon knife to chop him up. However, even so, Qin Feng still insisted on his original thoughts. Having traveled through time, if all he had in mind were trivial matters of romance and love, that would be too childish. His ultimate goal in this life was to make achievements on the battlefield. He opened WeChat again, and it was already spotless after being cleaned up. Everything that needed to be deleted or blocked had been taken care of. At this moment, Qin Feng clicked on a profile picture of a peony flower, with the WeChat nickname being Light Breeze. This was his mother Zhou Mei's WeChat account. Strangely, when it comes to calling parents, most people instinctively call their mothers first. Even when returning home and seeing his father, the first question is usually, "Where is mom?" In this world, Qin Feng's parents, like many others, were ordinary dual-income workers. Their life was no different from that of the majority of average families, with 3 meals a day of simple fare. Shortly after sending a video request, it was connected. However, what appeared on the screen was not his mother Zhou Mei, but a large, frowning face, with 2 dark nostrils almost poking into the camera. "What is up?" The large face pulled back a little. Qin Feng then realized that it was his father Qin Aiming holding the phone. Qin Feng was taken aback and instinctively asked, "Dad, where's mom?" Qin Aiming looked up ahead and then impatiently asked, "Why are you calling for your mom? Aren't you in the army? How can you still play on your phone?" Qin Feng awkwardly explained, "It's the weekend, the army gave us our phones this morning." Oh. The camera shook back and forth, seemingly never able to focus on his father's long face. This is a common issue for many middle-aged people when making video calls. They can never seem to find where the camera is. Also, the camera is always blurry, as if covered in dust from who knows where. "What do you want?" Qin Feng was clearly caught off guard by his father's indifferent attitude. "Shouldn't you be happy that your son is calling? Shouldn't you show a bit of joy? Why the long face, as if someone owes you millions?" Qin Feng didn't know what to say. Nothing much, just call to check in. To see how you are." "Yes, just hold it like that." Yes. Hold the scarf over your head like a butterfly. It looks better when the wind blows." Before Qin Feng could finish his sentence, he was interrupted by his father's nonsensical remarks on the other end of the video. It made Qin Feng feel like he might as well not have made this video call. Old Qin, who are you on the phone with? At this moment, a familiar voice came from the other end of the line. Although the wind noise was a bit loud, Qin Feng recognized it immediately as his mother, Zhou Mei's voice. But the next second, Qin Aiming's words almost made Qin Feng drop his phone. Not related, it's a prank call. What do you mean not related, prank call? You've been chatting for so long, let me see. Soon, his mother's face popped into the camera. Compared to her usual plain appearance, she looked much more refined, clearly having put on makeup. Oh, you old Qin, when our son video calls, you say it's a nuisance. Zhou Mei huffed, giving Qin Aiming a couple of kicks before snatching the phone away and finding a dimly lit spot. Seeing Qin Feng in the video, Zhou Mei was obviously very happy. She first complimented, my son looks so handsome in military uniform. Then, she began to chatter incessantly, asking about Qin Feng's situation in the army. She inquired about whether he was getting enough to eat, if he was sleeping well, how tiring the training was, and how he was getting along with his comrades. Even if there were mosquitoes in the dormitory, almost every detail. Meanwhile, Qin Aiming became an isolated bystander, unable to interject a word. Noticing the colorful ribbons woven into his mother's hair and the multicolored shawl draped over her shoulders, Qin Feng curiously asked, Mom, aren't you at home? Where are you? Upon hearing this, Zhou Mei immediately laughed. It's your dad. He insisted on joining some travel group. With the holiday approaching, we decided to travel a bit off-peak. We're in Yunnan now. Your dad is taking pictures of me. Oh, the scenery here is beautiful. Seeing Zhou Mei so happy, Qin Feng couldn't help but smile too. He realized that with him being away, his parents were enjoying their time together. The off-peak travel was clearly well planned. No wonder his dad looked impatient earlier. It turned out he was disturbed from their couple's world by him. All right, enough chatting with this little rascal. We need to save battery for taking pictures. Qin Aiming snatched the phone back, his face almost pressing into the camera. You just focus on being a good soldier in the army. Don't think about home too much. Your mom and I are doing just fine. Just take care of yourself. That's it. We're out of battery, bye. Watching the suddenly interrupted video call, Qin Feng couldn't help but feel a mix of emotions. Indeed, fatherly love was like a landslide. He thought that while he was in the army, his parents would be worried sick at home, unable to eat or sleep. Instead, they were happily traveling in Yunnan, living quite comfortably. Now, Qin Feng finally understood whom the original owner's carefree personality had been inherited from. Young Qin Aiming must have also been quite the character back in his day. Qin Feng even suspected that Qin Aiming had a plan when he encouraged him to join the army, intending to get rid of him as a burden to enjoy a leisurely life. However, this was actually quite good. With his parents busy with their own lives, they didn't have to revolve around him all the time. With a stable home front, Qin Feng could focus on developing himself in the army without worries. After that, Qin Feng called the elderly members of his family to check on their health. Once he hung up, he relaxed a bit by scrolling through his phone, catching up on news and videos to stay connected with the outside world, because even while serving in the army, one shouldn't become completely disconnected from reality. In the dormitory, some were watching funny videos on a small platform, while others played a popular mobile game, and everyone looked relaxed and happy. At this moment, as they had just entered the military, the youthful expressions on their faces and the clarity in their eyes were evident. If it weren't for the green camouflage uniforms, the scene would hardly differ from that of a university dorm during military training. At this point, Li Jiaxing glanced up and noticed that everyone was engrossed in their phones, completely oblivious to him. So he quietly moved his small stool back a bit, leaned against the corner, and found a safer spot. He then secretly opened his cloud storage and entered a folder named Study Materials. Looking at the rows of culturally rich courses from around the world, Li Jiaxing couldn't help but smile foolishly, a grin spreading across his face. Damn, I forgot to turn off the sound. The sudden noise startled Li Jiaxing, almost causing him to drop his phone. After fumbling for a while, he finally managed to turn the volume down to the lowest setting and turned off the screen. But when he looked up again, Zhao Pengfei was already standing in front of him, squinting his eyes like a living embodiment of authority. Everyone in the dorm was looking at him with mischievous smiles. Qin Feng chuckled to himself, thinking, you're in trouble now. Hand over your phone. Zhao Pengfei's voice was devoid of any emotion. I'm sorry, I was wrong, Li Jiaxing quickly admitted, lowering his head. What did you do wrong? I shouldn't have kept it to myself. What the hell? Zhao Pengfei snatched the phone from him and delivered a swift kick. 2 minutes later, Li Jiaxing had a paper ball stuffed up his nose and a bruise on his face. At that moment, he was darting around like a gopher among those who had phones. He would occasionally sneak a few chapters of a novel or enjoy a funny video. Then he would run over to Qi Ming and seriously guide him on how to play a card game. Although Li Jiaxing's phone had been confiscated early on and he had received a lecture from the squad leader, it didn't affect his joyful weekend mood at all. Without his phone, playing with others was still quite enjoyable. You should play three of a kind. Blow him up, blow him up. Hey, can you even play this game? Let me try? Watching Li Jiaxing snatch the phone back for himself, Qi Ming was dumbfounded. Is this your phone or mine? Are you itching for a fight? But after winning a few rounds, when Li Jiaxing wanted to return the phone, Qi Ming refused to take it back, insisting, You play. You're good at this. Win me some more points. In the blink of an eye, an hour had passed. Qin Feng was starting to feel a bit bored. The news section was filled with all sorts of chaotic entertainment headlines. One moment, it was about this celebrity cheating, and the next about that star evading taxes. Can't we have some positive news? Qin Feng put his phone in his pocket and headed to the corridor to gaze into the distance and relax his eyes. Just then, from the end of the corridor, the classroom of Class 6 caught his attention. A new recruit suddenly burst out screaming and was about to jump off the balcony. Fortunately, the second platoon leader acted quickly, rushing over to pull him down and pinning him firmly to the ground. Let me go? Let me go? I don't want to be a soldier anymore. My girlfriend wants to break up with me. I want to go back. I want to go back. Chapter 27. Crazy for Love Company Commander. That's how it happened. Bang. After hearing the second platoon leader's report, Ge Jiong slammed his hand on the table, causing the water in the teacup to splash out. What the hell? This kid named Li Xiangkong, has he lost his mind? Just because his girlfriend dumped him, he wants to die? Can't he live without a woman? The second platoon leader was equally frustrated. Yeah, luckily I acted quickly. If he had jumped down the corridor and hurt his arms or legs, the consequences would have been unimaginable. You know the consequences are unimaginable? Ge Jiong glared at him, his anger boiling. Zhou Shangfei, how the hell are you leading your troops? It's been just a few days since enlistment. How are you handling ideological education? On enlistment day, did you even understand the personal situations of the new recruits? Did you know this kid had a girlfriend? Why didn't you pay special attention? The second platoon leader was at a loss for words under Ge Jiong's barrage. Ge Jiong continued, pounding the table. You're a second-term sergeant, and this isn't your first time leading new recruits, yet you still made such a rookie mistake. You know that having a girlfriend outside is a potential minefield that can blow up and take down a bunch of people. Why didn't you pay special attention? The second platoon leader had no way to express his grievances. Company commander, during self-introductions, the kid said he had a stable relationship with his girlfriend and that they had been together for several years. He even mentioned that she told him they would get married after he returned from service. Who knew that just a few days later? Is that an excuse? That's not an excuse at all. That's just your dereliction of duty. Ge Jiong slammed the table, his eyebrows nearly catching fire. As the commanding officer of the new recruits, he had to manage everything from training to the personal issues of the recruits. If even one person made a mistake, he would have to bear the consequences. There's an old saying in the military. If new recruits don't understand, it's because the veterans haven't taught them. If that recruit Li Xiangkong had really jumped from the third floor and broken his arms or legs, or worse, if he hit his head and lost his life, it wouldn't just be a reprimand for Ge Jiong. He would definitely face serious consequences. The second platoon leader naturally knew the severity of the situation. Company commander, I was wrong. Please punish me. Stop with the dramatics. Ge Jiong angrily waved his hand. Don't think that just because I have a good relationship with your company commander, I want to penalize you. If this matter is left unresolved and it develops in the worst direction, you'd better pack your things and leave. Even if your company commander comes to plead with me personally, it won't matter. Yes. The second platoon leader took a deep breath and said nervously, Company commander, how about I talk to him and see if I can persuade that kid to come back to his senses? No need. Ge Jiong snorted, just now. You didn't approve his leave, and you were the one who pinned him down and sent him to the confinement room. Sending you there will only escalate the conflict and make the situation worse. The instructor has already gone over. He will be responsible for doing the ideological work and persuading him. Yeah, the second platoon leader nodded. Suddenly, he cautiously asked, Squad leader, what if? I'm just saying if. This guy stubbornly refuses to turn back and insists on diving headfirst into this love affair. What should we do? What to do? Ge Jiong was directly amused by the question. He pulled out a cigarette from the pack and lit it with a lighter. After taking a couple of puffs, he squinted and pointed at him with the cigarette in hand. You withdraw, and you get lost. I'll take the blame with the instructor. The second platoon leader fell silent. But in reality, what worried him the most wasn't that. What he was truly concerned about was that Li Xiangkong might take extreme measures. People who are infatuated with love seem fine on the surface, but once it involves emotional issues, their personalities can become very extreme. Withdrawing a soldier also requires following procedures. A written application must be submitted, and decisions are made in meetings by higher-ups before officially sending someone back. But if, during this period, Li Xiangkong does something outrageous, it could lead to serious trouble. It could explode like a bomb, harming a lot of people. Ge Jiong suddenly thought of something and quickly instructed the second platoon leader. You need to notify all the class leaders immediately to come for a meeting to prevent the situation from worsening. Yes. The second platoon leader saluted and ran out quickly. Gu Xiong crushed the cigarette but into the ashtray, still feeling furious. These young folks are way too fragile. They act like they can't live without each other after a breakup. Sigh, new recruits are getting harder to manage. Then, Gu Xiong took out his phone from the drawer, and a smile appeared on his face. He opened WeChat and sent a message to a girl whose nickname suggested she didn't smile much. Are you there? Have you eaten breakfast? We had spicy soup this morning. Do you like spicy soup? In the 4th class dormitory, class leader Zhao Pengfei had just left. Immediately, everyone gathered around Qin Feng. Qin Feng, what exactly happened just now? Li Jiejun was the first to gossip. Yeah, why was that guy from the 6th class pinned down by the 2nd platoon leader? Tell us about it. Qi Ming quickly followed up. Qin Feng looked speechlessly at the gossiping duo, thinking, you two are really in sync. I'm not clear on the details either. I just saw that soldier trying to jump off the corridor, but the 2nd platoon leader pulled him back in time. Wow, is this guy that intense? Everyone was shocked and wide-eyed. Though falling from the 3rd floor wouldn't kill someone, breaking limbs is still very possible. What do you think this guy is after? Why would he suddenly want to end it all? I think I heard him mention something about a breakup with his girlfriend at the door. Oh no, is he lovesick? What is love, you ask? It can lead to life and death for some. This guy must be a hopeless romantic. With that, the group of men chatted even more enthusiastically. Even transforming into detectives, people began to make various inferences based on the little clues they had. Some said the girl must have run off with a wealthy boss. Others suggested that the guy entrusted his girlfriend to a good friend, who then took advantage of the situation. In short, the more outrageous the theory, the better. There was even a more exaggerated version, claiming that when the guy returned, he found his girlfriend locked in a dog cage. In a fit of rage, he gathered an army of 100,000 to wipe out the rival's family in an instant. Wow, such imagination. It would be a shame not to write a story about a returning hero. Although Qin Feng didn't know the details, he could piece together the situation from the fragmented information. Regardless of the reasons, it was clear that the girl had unilaterally announced the breakup. The new recruit from Class 6 probably wanted to go back and clarify things with her, hoping to salvage the relationship. However, during the training period, new recruits were absolutely not allowed to go out. So this guy chose the most extreme method. Qin Feng took out his phone and looked at the note he had previously written, feeling more convinced that his decision was correct. Romantic feelings and emotional ties would only hinder his progress. Therefore, it was necessary to cut ties decisively. Of course, not everything is absolute. There are a few cases where military relationships can end well, but the difficulties of the process can only be truly understood by those who have experienced it. Qin Feng didn't want to trouble others or have anyone worry about him. That's why he chose to act swiftly and decisively. Of course, this behavior is definitely not to be encouraged. Children should not imitate it. Meanwhile, in the isolation room, the new recruit Li Xiangkong from Class 6 was tied up like a rice dumpling with backpack straps, with a towel stuffed in his mouth. He lay on the cool mat on the floor, squirming like a large maggot. The purpose of this was not to prevent him from escaping, but to worry about him resorting to extreme self-harm. After all, once a person gets stuck in a corner, they can do foolish things. Instructor Bai Yuan squatted in front of him, looking at him seriously. Li Xiangkong, I've said everything that needs to be said. As an adult, you should be able to distinguish the pros and cons. Li Xiangkong nodded vigorously, indicating he understood. Bai Yuan took a deep breath and untied him, also removing the towel from his mouth. Bai Yuan patted him and said earnestly, I hope you can turn your sadness into motivation and channel that emotion into your upcoming training. Can you do that? Li Xiangkong lowered his head, remaining silent. Bai Yuan knew he hadn't completely moved on yet. To prevent any potential relapse, he decided to take a bold step to eliminate future troubles. He pulled out his wallet from his pocket, opened it, and took out a photo. Pointing to the woman holding a child in the picture, he said, This is my partner. I only met her after breaking up with my ex-girlfriend. I was once like you, trapped in a relationship and unable to move on, feeling like the sky was falling when we broke up. But now look at me. I'm doing quite well, aren't I? Li Xiangkong seemed slightly moved, with his eyes turning a bit red. Bai Yuan knew that this tactic must have worked. So he continued to comfort him. Man, you need to be a bit more carefree. Leaving you is her loss. She isn't worthy of you, right? Right. Li Xiangkong nodded vigorously, his eyes showing a bit more determination. Bai Yuan felt a significant weight lift from his heart and finally pointed at the girl in the photo, saying, Look, this is my daughter, Yuan Yuan. She's 3 years old now. Our family of 3 Yuan Yuan. It's Yuan Yuan. At that moment, Li Xiangkong's expression instantly changed. He snatched the photo from Bai Yuan's hand, tears flowing like a broken dam. Bai Yuan was taken aback by this scene, unsure of what he had said wrong. What happened to Yuan Yuan? That heartless woman. Her nickname is Yuan Yuan. Yuan Yuan, why don't you love me anymore? You said you would wait for me. And I promised I would come back to marry you in a tank. Li Xiangkong pounded his chest, a mix of pain and madness. No matter how Bai Yuan tried to speak or persuade him, he couldn't be calmed down. Li Xiangkong began to pound on the door with his fists, shouting, "Let me out, let me out. I don't want to be a soldier anymore. I want to find Yuan Yuan. I want to ask her why she doesn't want me." Watching the situation spiral out of control again, Bai Yuan wanted to slap himself. Why did he even show him that photo? What a mess. Truly, one wrong word could lead to total disaster. Bai Yuan looked at this love-struck madman and shook his head helplessly. There's no saving him. This kid is completely hopeless. Chapter 28. Refusal of Military Service. This soldier is beyond help. The seriousness of the problem should be clear to everyone, right? Gu Jiong scanned the row of squad leaders sitting below and said sternly, "After this meeting, I expect you to thoroughly investigate the personal situations of new recruits in your squads. Any signs of resistance or instability must be reported immediately, especially those who are dating outside. Don't wait until problems arise and then make me clean up after you. Understood?" "Yes." The squad leaders responded in unison. Also, Gu Jiong continued seriously, aside from daily training, from today on, all squad leaders must focus on the ideological education of new recruits. No matter how well their physical fitness is, if their mindset is wrong, it's all in vain. After tonight's news broadcast, each squad must hold a meeting to quickly implement this. Everyone nodded while taking detailed notes. At the same time, every veteran took it as a warning and paid close attention. If a new recruit makes a mistake, the squad leader is the primary responsible person. Forget about gaining honors or rewards. Ensuring that nothing goes wrong in the squad is the top priority for a leader. The recent incident in the 6th squad served as a wake-up call for all veteran squad leaders. It must be taken seriously to prevent similar occurrences in the future. Although there is a saying in the military that a soldier's love either fades or turns sour, not all soldiers who break up face such problems. Most people can overcome a period of low times after some time. Some people can transform their sadness into strength, continuously pushing their limits during training. However, in a large group, there are always a few individuals who fixate on their problems, believing that life is unbearable without love. When such individuals emerge, it becomes a disaster for the entire new recruits unit. A couple of years ago, there was an incident where a recruit, heartbroken, climbed over the wall to escape in the middle of the night. It took 3 companies 3 days to search the mountains before they finally found him in a forest. Due to his unfamiliarity with the area, combined with a lack of food and water, he nearly died there. When the higher-ups learned of this, they were furious. And everyone from the new recruits commander to the instructors and platoon leaders received serious disciplinary actions. The recruit squad leader even stripped off his uniform and left. Additionally, several officers in the regiment were publicly criticized in a meeting as examples of what not to do. Consequently, the entire regiment underwent a month-long disciplinary overhaul, with strict inspections and high pressure, making life difficult for everyone involved. As for the deserter, the punishment was equally severe. First, the words "refusal to serve in the military" were permanently stamped on his household registration. He would never be able to take civil service or professional examination. Not only would he be barred from state-owned enterprises, but even local government jobs would be out of reach. Moreover, his descendants would also face significant repercussions. Any process requiring verification would be unattainable. Some might argue that without a job in the public sector, one could start a business instead. However, that is quite naive. First, you wouldn't be able to obtain a business license. Second, if you wanted to buy a house or a car, you would likely be unable to secure a loan. Of course, if your family has several hundred million, you might not care, as the only downside would be not being able to go abroad. But for an average person, life would essentially be over. The military is not a marketplace, and serving is not a game. There is no mandatory conscription here. You can choose not to enlist. But once you do, leaving is not as simple as saying you want to go. However, at the moment, whether that recruit named Li Xiangkong is alive or dead is not the main concern for everyone. Sometimes, one must learn to respect the choices of others, even if it is hard to convince someone who has made up their mind. Right now, the priority is to prevent such incidents from happening again, especially since there are many recruits in the unit, and this boy is not the only one in a relationship. The main task for the squad leaders now is to clear the minds and prevent similar situations from occurring again. Just then, Bai Yuan walked in with a worried expression. "Good day, instructor." All the squad leaders immediately stood up to greet him. However, Bai Yuan seemed not to notice and slammed his hat onto the desk. Seeing the instructor's gloomy face, Gu Jiong didn't even need to speak to know the outcome. They hadn't been able to bring him back. That kid was beyond saving. "I'm sorry, old Gu. I tried my best," Bai Yuan sighed and said, feeling guilty. "I thought I was close to persuading him. But then I stepped into a pit and ignited the situation. He is now completely focused on getting back together with his partner and refuses to join the military no matter what. I think it might be better to just let it go. That scoundrel." Gu Jiong slammed his fist on the table, nearly exploding with anger. What a pathetic soldier. For such a trivial matter, he is willing to throw away his future? Doesn't that kid know the consequences of being a deserter? His life will be completely ruined. Bai Yuan shook his head helplessly. I've talked to him. I've talked until my lips are about to wear out. But once a person gets stuck in their own mindset, not even 10 donkeys can pull them back. In that kid's eyes, love is everything. He just wants to go crazy for love this once. Perhaps in a few years, he'll suddenly wake up and regret his decisions. But that won't be our concern anymore. Gu Zhiyong stared at him intensely. Is there really no way? Bai Yuan took a deep breath and said helplessly, you can keep a person, but you can't hold on to their heart. The new training work has just started. We can't possibly keep him confined for 3 months. What if one day he slips away or jumps from the building? The conference room fell into a dead silence. And even the veteran squad leader's face turned grim. Only Zhao Pengfei looked like he wanted to say something, but ultimately held back. At this moment, the one feeling the worst had to be Zhou Shangfei, the squad leader who also served as the second platoon leader. He could no longer worry about what would happen to Li Xiangkong. However, his military career was likely coming to an end. Discharging soldiers from the army is a very troublesome matter. It's not something that a new squad leader like Gu Zhiyong can decide unilaterally. It requires layers of reporting, discussions and meetings by higher-ups, and coordination with the local armed department to bring in a replacement. And Zhou Shangfei, as the squad leader, would bear the primary responsibility for leading his troops poorly and causing negative repercussions. It's like in a company. If a member of a project team makes a mistake that leads to significant losses, that employee will be fired. And the team leader will also face consequences. The military does not tolerate mistakes. When issues arise, someone must take responsibility. Moreover, Zhou Shangfei, as the squad leader and also serving as the second platoon leader, is bound to face serious consequences. His future is basically ruined, and his military career will end here. Squad leader, do I still have a chance? Zhou Shangfei's eyes were already a bit red. Gu Zhiyong glanced at him, feeling somewhat pained. Although this kid was not one of his soldiers, he was still a standout in the 4th Company. Given the relationship he had with the 4th Company commander, he truly did not want to see such a good soldier dragged down. However, he couldn't guarantee anything and could only do his best. All right, everyone can leave now. Gu Zhiyong waved his hand, dismissing everyone. Given the circumstances, he also had to think about how to write this report. The new recruit named Li Xiangkong couldn't be persuaded anymore. He could only see if he could shoulder some of the responsibility for the squad leader. But he knew that even so, Zhou Shangfei's chances of staying on for 3 more terms were still very slim. One person makes a mistake, and the whole group suffers the consequences. Don't say it's just Zhou Shangfei, a small second-term non-commissioned officer. Even I, as the company commander, or even the regiment commander and division commander, can't escape the strict rules of the military. Gu Zhiyong said nothing more and quickly started dealing with work matters. He lit a cigarette, but the more he smoked, the more irritated he became. His right hand kept scratching his head, and his brows were furrowed like a knot. At that moment, he suddenly noticed that the light in front of him was blocked by someone. Looking up, he found it was Zhao Pengfei standing there. Didn't you leave? Why are you back? Gu Zhiyong asked impatiently. Company commander, I came to ask for a lighter, right? Here you go. Gu Zhiyong, like a powder keg, slammed the lighter onto the table in anger. Get out of here. I'm really annoyed right now. Zhao Pengfei smiled wryly. Company commander, you misunderstood. I have something to report to you. Report what? This matter might have a solution. You have a solution? Gu Zhiyong looked at him in surprise. What kind of solution can you have? It's not me. It's one of our soldiers in the squad. He definitely has a way. Zhao Pengfei quickly waved his hand to explain. Nonsense. Bai Yuan could no longer listen and slammed the table. If even I, the ideological instructor, can't solve it, how can a new soldier from your squad have a way to solve it? Zhao Pengfei, do you have a problem with me, or are you mocking my inability? No, absolutely not. Zhao Pengfei replied. Gu Zhiyong squinted at him. Are you itching for trouble? Do you think we have nothing to do and are deliberately being entertained by you? Zhao Pengfei quickly shook his head. Company commander, instructor. Even if you gave me 10 times the courage, I wouldn't dare. I truly believe that kid from our squad has a way. After all, things have come to this point. The worst outcome is just to withdraw the troops. Why not let him give it a try? What if it works? Gu Zhiyong and Bai Yuan fell silent. At this point, they had no other solutions. Rather than waiting for punishment, it would be better to take a gamble. They exchanged glances and then looked at Zhao Pengfei together, asking, what is the name of this soldier you mentioned? His name is Qin Feng, like the Qin of Qin Shi Huang and the wind of literary spirit. Chapter 29. Be low-key. Don't call me a love saint, you are Qin Feng? Reporting to the company commander, I am. In the office, Gu Zhiyong looked at the tall young man in front of him, who was about 1.8 meters tall and quite handsome, with a face full of suspicion. In his impression, those who were too handsome were usually unreliable. Gu Zhiyong looked at Zhao Pengfei, puzzled. Are you sure he can really solve it? Zhao Pengfei nodded confidently. That kid from class 6 is troubled by love, so he got stuck in a dilemma. And this guy is a love saint, so I think he is just right for the job. Gu Zhiyong looked at Qin Feng again. His expression as strange as could be. A love saint? He doesn't look like one. At most, he is just slightly more handsome than me. Nothing special. But at that moment, Qin Feng's demeanor was somewhat unnatural. As an upright young man, he didn't like being introduced in such a way. Gu Xiong looked at him coldly. The situation, has your class leader already told you? Yes, sir, Qin Feng replied, standing tall. Qin Feng, this matter is not a joke. Are you absolutely sure? Report, sir, I am not. Hearing this, the faces of the company commander and the instructor instantly turned pale. Not sure? Why did you shout so loudly then? Zhao Pengfei's expression also changed dramatically, and he shot a fierce glare at Qin Feng. You little brat. Didn't you just say on the way here that there wasn't much of a problem? There isn't much of a problem, Qin Feng said sincerely. But I indeed don't have complete confidence. I can only try my best. Earlier, when Zhao Pengfei approached him for help, Qin Feng was actually reluctant to agree. Do not advise others to do good without experiencing their affairs. Sometimes, one should respect others' choices. Moreover, this was about another class, people he had no connection with. However, Zhao Pengfei had already guaranteed it in front of the company commander, so Qin Feng had no choice but to take on the task. Of course, Zhao Pengfei also privately promised him that he would definitely benefit from it afterward. Thus, Qin Feng reluctantly agreed to help. But he was never one to boast or make grand claims. Otherwise, if he failed, it would be a slap in the face. Although Gu Xiong was somewhat dissatisfied with Qin Feng's lack of confidence, he said nothing. After all, it was something even he and the instructor were at a loss for. What could a rookie do? Bringing in Qin Feng was entirely due to Zhao Pengfei's strong recommendation. Additionally, it was a last-ditch effort attitude. Since there was nothing left to lose, failing wouldn't matter much. However, for some reason, Instructor Bai Yuan held a glimmer of hope for Qin Feng. He had clearly seen what happened on the playground a couple of days ago. Later, he even specifically asked Zhao Pengfei about it, and learned that Qin Feng was exceptionally capable. So, Bai Yuan encouraged him, saying, Qin Feng, don't feel too pressured. It would be great if it works out, but if it doesn't, it's okay. Yes, instructor. Qin Feng paused for a moment and then spoke again. However, I still need some props. Props? What props? The others immediately looked at him in confusion. 10 minutes later, the door to the confinement room was opened from the outside. Qin Feng hadn't even stepped in yet when he poked his head in to take a look. He soon realized that the so-called confinement room was quite different from what he had imagined. When he thought of the confinement room, the first image that popped into his mind was of the characters in a certain drama being tormented, or the small prison cell from the Shawshank Redemption. But in reality, the confinement room in the military was just a sealed empty room. It was bare, with no bed or furniture, only a mat on the floor. There was nothing to do here, the ground was cold, and it was impossible to sleep. The only thing one could do was to constantly reflect on their mistakes. At that moment, Li Xiangkong was curled up on the mat, hugging his legs. He stared blankly at the ground, lost in thought, not knowing what was on his mind. But in the next moment, a bottle of liquor and a glass appeared on the ground. Li Xiangkong lifted his head in confusion, looking at Qin Feng, who was sitting cross-legged in front of him, his eyes filled with bewilderment. He recognized Qin Feng and knew he was from Class 4. But soon he understood. This was someone sent by the sergeant to persuade him to continue serving. When the veterans couldn't convince him, they sent the new recruits. But really, you guys are something. Li Xiangkong remained expressionless. Don't waste your effort, just take the stuff away. I won't change my mind. Qin Feng opened the bottle cap and poured himself a drink. Then, he pushed the glass in front of Li Xiangkong. I'm not here to persuade you. Li Xiangkong was taken aback, looking at him in doubt. Clearly, he didn't believe Qin Feng's words. For his wariness, Qin Feng appeared quite calm. It was indeed the sergeant who contacted me, wanting me to talk to you. However, personally, I support your decision. Being a soldier is not the only option. Hearing this, the sergeant and instructor outside immediately changed their expressions. The second platoon leader who came along looked as if he had just eaten something unpleasant. He glared at Zhao Pengfei, angrily mouthing, Are you here to convince him or to add fuel to the fire? Don't mess this up for me. Zhao Pengfei was also bewildered. However, he believed that Qin Feng wouldn't be aimless. Since he agreed to help, he must have his own thoughts. So, Zhao Pengfei made a shushing gesture to the second platoon leader, signaling him to keep listening. At this moment, Li Xiangkong was the most surprised. He didn't expect that Qin Feng was not there to persuade him, but to support him. Suddenly, Li Xiangkong felt that this new recruit from Class 4 was on the same wavelength as him. At the very least, they both understood the value of love. Thank you for understanding. Li Xiangkong took the initiative to raise his glass and clinked it with Qin Feng's. He took a big gulp and immediately teared up from the spiciness. Qin Feng took a symbolic sip from the bottle. Then, he pulled out a bag of peanuts from his pocket, tore it open, and spilled a little on the mat as a snack. With liquor and snacks in hand, Qin Feng prompted, Now, please tell me your story. My name is Qin Feng. I'm from the Jiangsu Zhejiang region. Where are you from? From the two Guang regions. Oh, a rich area. What rich area? It's just a small county in the 5th tier, with low wages and sky-high housing prices. Then your family must be landlords or running a factory. If I had your conditions, I wouldn't want to be a soldier either. Not at all. Li Xiangkong shook his head. Those are just internet jokes. There aren't that many landlords or big bosses. My family is ordinary. My mom has been laid off for many years and does some odd jobs. In just a few simple sentences, Qin Feng had a clear understanding of the young man's family situation. A fifth-tier small city, high housing prices, low wages. An average family situation. Not even close to a moderately well-off life. I have a rough idea now. Chapter 30. Launch a fierce attack. It hurts. My friend Qin Feng continued to chat casually with him. So, what about your partner? Still in school? Yeah, she's attending our local health school, Li Xiangkong nodded. Oh, a white-coated angel, Qin Feng said with a smile. Hearing the term white-coated angel, a hint of a smile finally appeared on Li Xiangkong's face. Then, without needing any further prompting from Qin Feng, he seemed to open up like a floodgate, speaking rapidly. In the 2.5 years we've been together, I've been frugal. I couldn't even bring myself to buy a pair of basketball shoes. I can say I've practically given her my heart. But why? Despite my love for her, does she want to break up with me? She even said she doesn't want me to hold her back. I don't know what I've done wrong. I have to find her and ask her clearly. Qin Feng had already started to zone out a bit. He genuinely wasn't fond of these cliché, infatuated love stories. Nonetheless, he still nodded along at key points, putting on a serious and empathetic expression. I can understand how you feel, really. Come on, let us toast. Qin Feng proactively picked up the bottle and clinked glasses with him. After 2 sips, Li Xiangkong's face was already starting to flush. But clearly, he was still lost in his sadness, a river of emotions flowing. Qin Feng comforted him. How about this? First, win her back, then kick her to the curb. Let her experience what it feels like to be dumped. No way. Li Xiangkong suddenly became emotional. I promised her I would never hurt her, that I would cherish her for a lifetime. Qin Feng twitched his face a bit. Not only was this guy a lovesick fool, but he was also a warm-hearted man. With such a mindset, it was no wonder he was so stubborn. Then when you win her back, just live a good life with her. Yeah, what are your plans after you go back? Li Xiangkong nodded. I've thought about it. I plan to just enroll in a local vocational school for a few years. Wait, Qin Feng interrupted. What's wrong? You can't enroll. Huh? Li Xiangkong was taken aback. Then he remembered what his instructor had told him before. After becoming a deserter, he couldn't apply for any vocational or higher education institutions for 2 years. Even online correspondence universities that exempt veterans from entrance exams were off-limits. He waved his hand as if it didn't matter. It's fine. I can just find a factory job. There's a car factory in our area. The salary plus bonuses is around 8,000 to 9,000 a month. My brother works there. I can get in. You won't be able to get in. Qin Feng casually tossed a peanut into his mouth. Your record states you have refused military service, and formal enterprises are quite strict about hiring. You'll be filtered out in the first round. Then I'll just find a private company. Otherwise, I can always wash dishes, right? Fueled by a bit of alcohol, Li Xiangkong still pretended to be indifferent. After all, he was sure he could find a job, as long as he didn't starve. Qin Feng clinked glasses with him again. But you can't wash dishes for a lifetime. Can you? He didn't drink himself, but watched Li Xiangkong take another big gulp. For someone who has experienced heartbreak and is troubled, there's really no need to persuade them to drink. Just leave the glass there, and they can keep drinking nonstop. Li Xiangkong seemed to have it all planned out. Smiling as he said, I plan to work for a few years and save some money. When my girlfriend graduates, we can rent a place together and start a small business, maybe a milk tea shop. That is a good idea. Qin Feng smiled and gave a thumbs up. Highly agreeing. But how are you going to apply for the business license for the milk tea shop? Li Xiangkong froze for a moment. Oh right. Will the business department not approve my application? Qin Feng offered a suggestion. That is not important. It doesn't matter. Worst case, you could sell skewers at the park entrance or push a cart selling pancakes in the morning. Yes, small investment, big return. In a couple of years. I'll take a loan to buy a house, then get married. Have you had too much to drink? I haven't drunk too much. Li Xiangkong clearly didn't handle alcohol well. This cup was about 3 ounces, and after just 1.5 ounces, he was already a bit tipsy and looking a bit dazed. Qin Feng popped another peanut into his mouth, crunching away. If your credit is an issue, you want to be able to get a loan, and you can't buy a house. Damn. Li Xiangkong slammed the cup down on the ground, angrily cursing. Why can't I do anything? Yes, you really can't do anything. Qin Feng thought to himself. Then poured him a bit more and comforted him with a smile. None of that is a problem. Money is valuable, but love is worth even more. As long as your girlfriend loves you, isn't materialistic, and is willing to endure hardships with you, it's all good. Isn't it just that you can't find a job, can't earn money, can't open a shop, and can't get a loan to buy a house. Your girlfriend is so understanding. She definitely won't mind you, right? The last right? Completely broke Li Xiangkong. Old buddy, that hurts. Forget about his girlfriend minding him. He didn't even like himself. He felt like he was living worse than a dog. Why was he crying now? Qin Feng frowned. Why not let your girlfriend buy a house, let her run the shop, and let her support you? It's not that big of a deal, right? Woo woo woo. Don't say that. If she were that good, she wouldn't have dumped me. Li Xiangkong's tears immediately flowed down. Although he had drunk a bit, his mind was still relatively clear. After talking for so long, he knew that Qin Feng had been speaking in a roundabout way. But even though he knew he was being played, he still couldn't help but get drawn in. While his girlfriend wasn't that materialistic, there still had to be basic living requirements. You might not be wealthy, but you can't be ridiculously poor. Yet, even though Li Xiangkong knew that Qin Feng was right and understood the predicament he was facing, he still didn't want to lose this relationship that had lasted for 2.5 years. He wanted to gamble once, hoping that Yuan still loved him. Saying break up was just out of anger. Watching the small beads of sweat gradually dry on Li Xiangkong's face, Qin Feng picked up another peanut and tossed it into his mouth. He knew very well that a few casual words were not enough to persuade someone to turn back. If it were that easy to dissuade someone in love, there wouldn't be so many people who, troubled by love, resorted to drastic measures. So, everything that just happened was merely the warm-up. The real main event was yet to come. Chapter 31. I don't strike easily, but when I do, it's a game changer. This guy is not simple, absolutely not simple, Bai Yuan said, slightly stepping back, unable to contain his excitement. What's not simple about him? The second platoon leader asked in confusion. Didn't he just have a few drinks and casual chats with Li Xiangkong? Bai Yuan rolled his eyes in annoyance. If I say you're slow-witted, you really aren't smart at all. Do you really think Qin Feng was just chatting with him casually? Isn't he? The second platoon leader genuinely couldn't discern the subtleties. He only knew that Qin Feng was inside, drinking with Li Xiangkong. But after chatting for a while, he couldn't see any results, right? At this moment, Gu Jiong moved his ear away from the door and walked over with a complex expression. No wonder your class ended up in this situation. You really can't think outside the box. At first, didn't Qin Feng ask that guy where he was from? Right. With just a simple question, he easily got Li Xiangkong's hometown and the local living expenses. Gu Jiong squinted his eyes and continued to explain. Using that topic, he smoothly inquired about Li Xiangkong's family situation and even learned that his mother had long been laid off. The second platoon leader frowned, still somewhat puzzled. Captain. But this information is all in the records. It's nothing special, right? Gu Jiong looked at him as if he were a fool. We can see the records. But can Qin Feng? The second platoon leader was momentarily speechless. Oh right, the information in the records is confidential. Only the core leaders of the new recruits have the authority to access it. Gu Jiong sighed. In just a few casual words, it seemed like small talk. But without you noticing, he got a clear picture of your background. This guy's intelligence and emotional quotient are frighteningly high. Only then did the second platoon leader fully understand. From the very beginning, Qin Feng was probing Li Xiangkong. In the two provinces, in a fifth-tier county, housing prices are high, wages are low, and expenses are high. Both parents are ordinary workers, and one of them is laid off. From this, one could conclude that Li Xiangkong's family is not even close to being affluent, barely managing to maintain a modest standard of living. One could even estimate the family's annual income and approximate savings. Moreover, alcohol can numb a person's thinking, making it even less likely for Li Xiangkong to notice. Damn, this is truly terrifying. The feeling of being completely exposed without any defenses makes the second platoon leader's scalp tingle. Just imagine, if it were himself sitting in front of Qin Feng. He might not be much better off than Li Xiangkong. But there's one thing I don't understand. The second platoon leader still voiced his confusion. Why does Qin Feng want to know all this? He's here to persuade someone, not to conduct a background check. Gu Jiong smiled wryly and shook his head, because this guy has his own ideas. Bai Yuan picked up the conversation from him and continued to explain. It's clear that although Qin Feng agreed to help, he has his own opinions. If Li Xiangkong comes from a well-off family and has no financial worries, whether he retreats or not wouldn't make much difference. But with Li Xiangkong's conditions, once he's labeled as a deserter, it would be a devastating blow not only to him, but to his entire family. The second platoon leader was taken aback, feeling overwhelmed. This Qin Feng can actually think on this level? Bai Yuan continued. After discussing family matters, we can talk about Li Xiangkong's girlfriend, which one seems so stiff. Then, I'll slowly guide Li Xiangkong to realize the seriousness of the situation if he becomes a deserter. From further education, job opportunities, starting a business, to marriage and buying a house, all would be greatly affected. But instructor? The second platoon leader was a bit confused. Didn't you already say all this when you talked to Li Xiangkong? Bai Yuan smiled wryly and shook his head, feeling a bit ashamed and unsure of how to respond. At this moment, Gu Jiong took over the question and answered for him. This kid is impressive. The same information delivered in a lecturing manner by the instructor goes in one ear and out the other. But Qin Feng has been supportive of his retreat from the start, standing by Li Xiangkong's side and lowering his defenses. Later, under the influence of alcohol, Qin Feng just needed to guide him simply. allowing Li Xiangkong to immerse himself in the role and deeply realize how serious the problem is. Wow. The second platoon leader felt goosebumps on his arms. That kid is terrifying. If it were me, I probably wouldn't last 3 rounds with him before I'd be sold out and counting the money for him. Gu Xiong glanced at him. 3 rounds? With your brain, you wouldn't last even 1. Although the second platoon leader felt a bit embarrassed, he didn't deny it. Qin Feng was indeed impressively formidable. He turned to Zhao Pengfei next to him, enviously saying, "You're really lucky." Zhao Pengfei chuckled. "You can't envy that." At this moment, Gu Xiong also looked at Zhao Pengfei with a meaningful glance. But what he was really thinking was, "You've got such an impressive soldier in your class. And you didn't report it to me? You're trying to keep that hidden from me? Just wait and see how I deal with you." Suddenly, there was a commotion in the room. Everyone hurriedly pressed their ears against the door again. Although they already had an inkling that Qin Feng should be quite confident, they still wanted to know what kind of method he would use to persuade the person to come back. As expected, this time, Qin Feng's approach was a bombshell. "Li Xiangkong, you are an extreme egoist." "I'm not." Li Xiangkong immediately denied it. In his perception, he was a dutiful and sharing person. Otherwise, he wouldn't be so compliant with his girlfriend, nearly giving his heart away. Qin Feng seemed to see right through him. "Do you think you're being crazy for love and that it's quite noble? But in my eyes, this is pure self-indulgence. Have you ever thought about how your parents feel? What feelings? What's wrong with my parents?" The cup in front of Li Xiangkong was nearly empty, and he was quite drunk, barely able to sit steadily. "I live my life, they live theirs, what's the connection? If I'm doing well, they will be happy for me." Qin Feng smiled, mocking his ignorance and pitying his plight. He supported himself with his legs and stood up from the uncomfortable mat. With an extremely disdainful gaze, he looked down at the seated Li Xiangkong. "Of course you don't care. You can just hide in a place where no one knows you. But what about your parents? They will be criticized by neighbors because of your mistakes. Even going out to buy groceries, they will be talked about, branded as the parents of a deserter. No, it can't be that serious, right?" Li Xiangkong asked weakly, clinging to a sense of hope. "Being criticized publicly and having your name featured in local news as a negative example. Don't you think that as serious?" Li Xiangkong felt a wave of panic and couldn't bear to look Qin Feng in the eyes. It wasn't easy for his parents to raise him. His mother had lost her job early on. They could only make ends meet by washing dishes in restaurants and doing odd jobs. As a child, no matter how incompetent or unsuccessful one may be, one cannot bear to see their parents suffer or be bullied. Just thinking about the scene of his parents being pointed at and whispered about by neighbors made him feel a pang of sorrow. "Why aren't you speaking? Feeling guilty? Are you scared?" Qin Feng's probing questions felt like daggers stabbing deep into Li Xiangkong's heart. He struggled like a fish out of water, but it was futile. He could only swallow repeatedly to alleviate his mounting anxiety. I didn't. They will understand me. Of course, they will understand you. Because you are their only son. Parents never hope for their children to be rich and powerful. They only wish for you to live a stable and safe life. But the word "but" from Qin Feng landed like a heavy blow to Li Xiangkong's heart, driving those sharp daggers even deeper. They understand you. They tolerate you. But who will understand them? As far as I know, in your region, there should be customs of ancestral worship, right? This remark made Li Xiangkong suddenly realize something. His features twisting in fear. He covered his ears tightly, trying to escape reality. But Qin Feng's piercing words were like steel needles, stabbing painfully into his ears. "The elderly couple worked hard for half a lifetime. Yet because of your mistake, they are forever nailed to the pillar of shame. If the ancestors of the Li family knew that there was a deserter in the family, they would not only expel your family from the family tree, but all members of the Li clan would curse you." With a thunderous crash, a storm of realization struck Li Xiangkong's mind. As tears streamed down his face, his psychological defenses completely crumbled. His heart felt like it had been pierced with several large holes, making it painful to breathe. Li Xiangkong curled up on the ground, crying uncontrollably. He deeply regretted his actions and wished he could turn back time. He never considered the far-reaching impact his actions would have on his parents and his entire family. Qin Feng looked at him expressionlessly as he wept on the ground. He knew that Li had come to realize the severity of the situation and no longer wanted to be a coward. In the Guangdong region, ancestral halls are not only places for honoring and worshipping ancestors, but also symbolize the continuation of family lineage and dignity. Qin Feng seized this point, which is why he played his trump card at the last moment. You can be selfish and disregard your parents' feelings, but being shunned by the entire family is something many from this region cannot accept. In a small county with a population of only a few 100,000, the Li surname is widespread and significant. When a coward is reported locally and criticized as a negative example, being expelled from the ancestral hall and distanced by friends and relatives is a fate that brings disgrace not only to Li Xiangkong, but to his entire family, turning them into outcasts. Qin Feng never liked to persuade others to turn back with soft words. He was not Li Xiangkong's mother, nor a saint. It was important to respect others' choices. The reason Qin Feng said these things was merely to convey one truth to Li Xiangkong. You can be a coward and boldly pursue love, but can you truly bear the consequences? In fact, Li Xiangkong could not bear them. He raised his distorted face, still wet with tears and snot. I was wrong. I was really wrong. I want to stay in the army. I don't want to be a coward. I don't want my parents to be ridiculed. And I don't want to be expelled from the ancestral hall. Upon hearing this, the company commander and others outside were immensely excited. It worked. The kid has turned around. He is not quitting. No need to write a self-criticism. No need for punishment. The second platoon leader even excitedly punched the air several times. Then, he hugged Zhao Pengfei and showered him with kisses on the cheek. Old Zhao, you've trained a good soldier, a really good soldier, huh? Get away from me. I'm not into that. Zhao Pengfei kicked him away, wiping the spit off his face in disgust. The second platoon leader was still lost in joy, unable to pull himself together. Gu Zhiyong and Bai Yuan exchanged glances, their smiles impossible to hide. But just when everyone thought the matter was resolved and peace was restored, Qin Feng's next words doused everyone with cold water. Sorry, you no longer have the opportunity to continue serving. You have to leave. Chapter 32. Humble? No. I just want to show off. What? What do you mean? Li Xiangkong's eyes widened in terror, staring at Qin Feng in disbelief. Qin Feng shrugged and said, the commander has decided to discharge you. I'm not here to persuade you to turn back. I just want to calm your emotions and make sure you don't do anything foolish while you wait. Li Xiangkong seemed to be struck by a bolt from the blue, his mind going blank. Equally confused was the second platoon leader eavesdropping outside. What was going on with Qin Feng? When did the company commander say that? Was he just talking nonsense? Gu Zhiyong directly ignored him and looked at the instructor with a complex expression. Old Bai, we really underestimated this kid's abilities. Indeed, Bai Yuan said with a wry smile. I never expected he could pull off something like this at the end. The second platoon leader clearly felt overwhelmed. Commander, instructor, what are you talking about? I don't understand. The two glanced at him and pretended not to hear, clearly too lazy to explain. The second platoon leader could only seek help from Zhao Pengfei, hoping to get some answers from him. At that moment, Zhao Pengfei was full of energy, looking extremely pleased. Let me put it this way. If you were a department head in your unit, and because the unit's performance was poor, the higher-ups notified the grassroots employees of a collective pay cut from 4,000 to 3,000, how would you inform your subordinates? Without hesitation, the second platoon leader replied. I would be straightforward and say exactly what the higher-ups said. Wouldn't the employees have objections and complain? The second platoon leader was suddenly at a loss for words. Zhao Pengfei smiled proudly. If it were Qin Feng, he would tell everyone that the higher-ups reduced the salary to 2,000, and that the extra 1,000 was something he fought for with the leaders. I see. The second platoon leader exclaimed, excitedly slapping his thigh. The outcome remained the same. But the employees would be more psychologically accepting of it. Not only would they not complain about Qin Feng, but they would also feel grateful. Perhaps some would even thank the higher-ups for being lenient and work even harder. Zhao Pengfei looked at him in surprise. So, you actually have some brains? Get lost. The second platoon leader pushed him playfully. How can you talk to a platoon leader like that? Zhao Pengfei rolled his eyes. It was just a temporary position. What was there to be proud of? In fact, just as the second platoon leader thought, Qin Feng indeed had this intention. Human nature is always complex. When something comes too easily, people often do not cherish it. But if it is something you have worked hard to obtain, it becomes invaluable. Qin Feng deliberately set up this last hurdle to let Li Xiangkong hit rock bottom. This way, when he climbed back up, he would cherish the hard-won opportunity even more. The company commander hoped that he would heed the advice and stay on as a soldier, rather than reaching a dead end and begging the commander to let him stay. Although the result would be the same, the process and the emotional experience would be two completely different concepts. Of course, Qin Feng did this to leave the company commander and instructor a way out. When Li Xiangkong took the initiative to ask for help, they could then adopt a leadership stance and have more room to maneuver. How about this? I'll help you talk to the company commander later, say some good words, and see if it can have any effect. But ultimately, it depends on your performance afterward. You know how much impact your previous actions had. If I were the company commander, I wouldn't dare to keep a ticking time bomb like you by my side. Li Xiangkong seemed to grasp a lifeline, his entire being filled with gratitude. Thank you, thank you. I will definitely not make the same mistakes again. As long as I can stay and continue serving, I promise I will perform well. If I slack off in any way, I swear, I will be hit by a car or struck by lightning. Seeing Li Xiangkong swearing an oath, Qin Feng knew the matter was practically settled. But adhering to the principle of delivering the Buddha to the West, he decided to lend a little more help. So have you let it go now? Li Xiangkong trembled slightly and fell silent again. He still couldn't forget that woman. After 2.5 years together, with so many beautiful memories, how could it be so easy to forget? He didn't know what to do. But he could only choose to let go and see if time could help ease the pain. At that moment, a photo appeared in front of him. The girl in the phone album had a stunning figure, exquisite features, and exceptional temperament. Li Xiangkong looked up, puzzled, at Qin Feng, not understanding what he meant. Is she pretty? Qin Feng leaned down and casually asked. Pretty. Qin Feng swiped through the screen a few times, showing him 5 or 6 different girls' photos. Without exception, these girls were all very beautiful. Some were pure, some were cute, some were sexy, and others had a grand presence. It was no exaggeration to say that any of these girls would be the top beauties in any school. Do you like them? Yes, they're okay, I guess. Li Xiangkong glanced at the photos of the stunning girls. He couldn't help but swallow hard, and his face started to flush slightly. He thought, is he trying to introduce a girlfriend to me? They are just too beautiful. They look like goddesses descending to the mortal world. Suddenly, he completely forgot about his ex-girlfriend's plain face. He even imagined himself shopping with these beauties, encountering his ex on the street, and seeing her shock and embarrassment. Just thinking about it made him feel exhilarated. Are you trying to introduce a girlfriend to me? Li Xiangkong licked the salty snot hanging on his lips and asked eagerly. Of course not. Huh. Then who are they? These are all my exes. Li Xiangkong looked as if he had been struck by lightning, his face filled with disbelief. Your exes are all so beautiful. Damn, how could you bear to let them go? If it were him, he would surely devote his whole life to cherish them. Seeing Li Xiangkong's astonished expression, Qin Feng inexplicably wanted to imitate a charming smile, but ultimately gave up due to the difficulty. He put away his phone and said lightly, I show you this to tell you that losing a single piece of grass is nothing. There is a whole forest waiting for you ahead. This is the best time, the youth that should be spent striving, if all of it is wasted on fleeting emotions. Wouldn't that be too childish? At this moment, Qin Feng appeared before Li Xiangkong like a towering giant. Every word he spoke resonated deeply and provoked thought. Indeed, although I, Li Xiangkong, may not be as handsome as Qin Feng, I'm not bad either. Why should I make such a fuss over something that has nothing to do with me? Where's the manly perspective? Where's the spirit of a man? At this moment, Li Xiangkong felt completely liberated. His ex-girlfriend had become a thing of the past in his eyes. The terms of endearment changed from baby and honey to that girl. He looked up at Qin Feng with immense admiration and asked, Idol, may I ask why you let them go? Qin Feng smiled lightly. I was afraid they would slow down my draw speed. Not only Li Xiangkong, but even all those eavesdropping outside gasped in shock. The three of them fixed their gaze on Zhao Pengfei, finally understanding that his earlier mention of being a romantic expert was not just empty talk. Yet, no one felt that Qin Feng was being arrogant or boasting. The way he had guided Li Xiangkong showed just how high his emotional intelligence was. A person like him would dominate among his peers. Who wouldn't he like a man who is handsome, humorous, witty, humble, and cultured? Even Gu Zhiyong thought that if he were a woman, he would probably be completely captivated by him. A master, this is a master. At that moment, a knock echoed from inside. The door to the confinement room couldn't be opened from the inside, so it had to be done this way for someone outside to open it. Soon, the door opened, and Qin Feng walked out, parched. It's done. There shouldn't be any major issues now. Silence. The corridor fell silent. Everyone looked at Qin Feng with a very complex gaze. Do you really have to be this humble? You had them on the verge of tears, and you say it's not a big deal? They could be certain that even if a gun were pointed at Li Xiangkong's head, forcing him to leave, he wouldn't budge. Chapter 33. The company commander cares. The battalion commander pays attention. Key cultivation. Company commander. Is the soldier I'm leading impressive or not? Just as Gu Zhiyong was about to light a cigarette, Zhao Pengfei spat out some words that extinguished the flame. He slammed the lighter on the table, glaring angrily at the smug Zhao Pengfei. Since you came back, you've asked me this 8 times already. If you're not tired of it, I am. Zhao Pengfei grinned, took a box of cigarettes from the table, pulled one out, and lit it. He then casually pocketed the lighter. What a turn of events. You're smoking my cigarettes, and even pocketing my lighter. Gu Zhiyong's eyelid twitched, but he couldn't muster any anger. All right, let us talk about something else. Can you report on your work progress these days? Company commander. Can you wait until I finish my smoke? Zhao Pengfei, with a cigarette in his mouth, felt a bit awkward. After all, there is no way to report to a superior in such a casual manner. Gu Zhiyong was completely indifferent to this. You say your piece, we are not outsiders. Zhao Pengfei quickly took a deep breath, puffed the smoke to the end, then put down his work notebook and began to report on the work situation. After listening, Gu Zhiyong nodded and provided comments and suggestions for improvement. Although your class has produced a good seedling, leading troops must be done fairly and equally. The military is a collective. Only by being excellent together can we truly prove your outstanding leadership abilities. Understood, Zhao Pengfei nodded. All right, you can go back now. I have some important work to attend to. After finishing his comments, Gu Zhiyong directly issued a dismissal order. Zhao Pengfei nodded and was just about to leave when he was suddenly called back. Lighter. Zhao Pengfei was at a loss for words, thinking to himself, why is it that you can be so smooth, but I can't be straightforward? After Zhao Pengfei left, Gu Zhiyong leisurely sat in his chair sipping tea. looking as though he had no urgent matters to attend to. He fiddled with the lighter in his hand, then opened the drawer to take out his phone. After casually opening WeChat, he noticed that the girl with the nickname "not very fond of laughing" still hadn't replied to any of his messages. Scrolling up a bit, he found that almost all the messages were his one-sided greetings. Even when the other party did reply, it was just a few cold words. Some messages were even responded to after 2 or 3 days. "Are you there? Have you had lunch?" Gu Xiong once again, as usual, edited a message to the other party. But just as he was about to press send, his thumb hovered in midair, unable to press down. At that moment, the words that Qin Feng had said in the confinement room kept floating in his mind. This is the best time, the youth that should be dedicated to hard work. If all of it is wasted on romantic feelings, wouldn't that be too childish? But what stuck most in Gu Xiong's memory was the line, "I don't want women to affect my speed in drawing my gun." Damn it. Gu Xiong suddenly felt as if he had been splashed with cold water. Why is this guy so outstanding, just like me? He then turned off his phone screen and, feeling a bit irritated, tossed the phone back into the drawer. At noon, in the regiment office, Regiment Commander Qiu Guohai, after listening to Bai Yuan's report, revealed a look of interest. He put down his pen, raised his head, and said, "I really didn't expect that among this batch of new recruits, there would be such capable ones. This kid could even help you with the instructor's job, haha." Bai Yuan's face flushed, but he didn't deny it. "Commander, this Qin Feng is indeed very outstanding. So, I was wondering if, when we go back to the company, I could assign him to the staff unit to work with me. I believe that with proper training, he will definitely become an excellent political officer in the future." Qiu Guohai chuckled and pointed at him. "The new training has only just started for a few days, and you want people to come to my regiment's office? I haven't even had lunch yet, and you've cornered me here. Isn't that a bit unreasonable?" Bai Yuan awkwardly smiled. "Commander, I didn't want to disturb you at noon either, but I really like this soldier, and I know that Gu will definitely have his eyes on him. I don't want to have an unpleasant argument with him over this matter, especially since the training work has to continue. So, you're coming to me for a decision? You want me to make the call for you?" Qiu Guohai smiled and waved his hand. "All right, I understand the situation. You can go back for now, and I'll think about it later." Bai Yuan wanted to say something more, but the commander had already issued a dismissal order, so he had no choice but to leave. Once the office door closed again, Qiu Guohai picked up the teacup on the table, brought it to his lips, and then shook his head with a smile. He then set the cup down and took out a document bag from the drawer on his right. Opening the bag, he found a red-headed document from the headquarters. As he looked at the contents, Qiu Guohai squinted his eyes, and the smile on his face gradually faded. In the new recruits' barracks, the recruits had eaten their fill and were returning to their dorms one after another. The sweet and sour pork ribs served at the dining hall at noon were truly delicious, almost on par with Michelin standards. Listening to Li Jiaxing's boast, Shin Sanchi looked confused. "What's Michelin? A relative of Mickey Mouse?" Li Jiaxing twitched his eyes. "You don't know what Michelin is? It's an international organization that rates food." Qi Ming scoffed. "ISNT, that just a tire company? What do they know about food? They just want to fool you guys who have money and like to show off. Damn it, it's so frustrating." But Li Jiaxing really couldn't find a way to refute that. The consumer base for that stuff is indeed for those who are naive and have money to spend. It's expensive, the portions are small, and it's actually not that tasty, far worse than the duck leg rice from Shaxian. Suddenly, Li Jiaxing saw Qin Feng walking in from outside, and immediately asked curiously, "Qin Feng, what did the squad leader call you for this morning? We haven't seen you for so long." "Oh." The others also gathered around with curiosity. "I helped the squad leader with some work." Qin Feng didn't reveal the real situation. First of all, such matters aren't exactly glorious. Secondly, wouldn't showing off here make the leadership look incompetent? But everyone seemed unconvinced by Qin Feng's answer. Having interacted for some time, everyone knew that Qin Feng was low-key and didn't like to show off. But as the saying goes, the fewer the words, the bigger the matter. There must be some hidden secret behind this. Everyone looked suspicious. Just as they were about to ask more, Zhao Pengfei walked in from outside, bringing everyone good news. "Today is the weekend, no making beds at noon. And no military regulations to memorize. We can take a nap." Yay! All the new recruits got excited. They rushed to the bottom of their beds to grab small stools. "I haven't finished speaking yet. Put that stool down." Zhao Pengfei's cold snort made everyone stand up straight immediately. He deliberately put on a stern look and said, "Today is a special case. Everyone can go to bed to sleep. However, when you get up, the bedding must be folded back the way it was, understood?" "Yes." "Wow. Is the squad leader turning over a new leaf? Letting everyone sleep in bed? This is truly a rare opportunity." Everyone was excited to climb into bed, wishing they could stick to it. Especially Li Jiaxing, whose eager expression seemed ready to take off at any moment. But what everyone didn't know was that this great fortune was entirely thanks to Qin Feng's outstanding performance in the morning. Chapter 34, Collective Transformation into Cleaning Boys Brothers. "It's time for us to take action. Get ready. Brother Feng, can I not go?" "No. But I'm scared. Scared or not. You have to go? We are soldiers. We must overcome difficulties and face challenges. Encouraged by Qin Feng, everyone finally gathered their courage and picked up their confidence. Brothers, let's go? Charge. With a wave of his hand, the fully armed new recruits of Squad 4 immediately grabbed brooms and mops, carrying buckets and brushes as they charged towards the big restroom. Then it was all about scrubbing and cleaning. 10 minutes earlier, everyone had received the notice to prepare for a battalion-wide cleaning. Since it was a collective cleaning, it couldn't be like the usual tidying up where each squad only took care of their own area. Each squad would be randomly assigned to a specific area for cleaning, known as a designated zone. Squad 5 was responsible for cleaning all the hallways and staircases of the dormitory building. Squad 6 was in charge of cleaning the basketball court and trimming the weeds in the nearby flower beds. Unfortunately, Squad 4 drew the short straw and was assigned to clean the big restroom. It should be noted that the big restroom next to the training ground was a pit latrine. During training, new recruits couldn't return to the dormitory to relieve themselves, so they had to use this facility. With over 100 people each day, some would go multiple times. And with the current heat of late summer, temperatures could reach 37 to 38 degrees Celsius. Just imagine how terrible the smell would be. Thinking about it alone could make you gag. As a result, many new recruits had to take a deep breath before entering the restroom, diving in like they were going underwater. Once inside, it was like a showdown with a cowboy. They had to act quickly. If they moved too slowly, they might be overwhelmed by the stench. This was also why the new recruits of Squad 4 had to muster such determination to charge in. Ugh, this is way too disgusting. How can those guys produce so much? Not only is it blocked up, but it also stinks so bad. Hey, are you saying what you did smells sweet? Even if it doesn't stink, it definitely isn't as bad as this. Inside the restroom, the new recruits of Squad 4 were gagging while trying to endure the nausea while cleaning. Although they had masks on and stuffed paper into their nostrils, it still couldn't shield them from the foul odor. Of course, Qin Feng was included in this. After all, his abilities couldn't protect him from the stench either. In fact, upon learning they would be cleaning the pit latrine, he instinctively felt a strong aversion. After all, no one is born liking waste, especially when it's someone else's. Before setting off, Qin Feng secretly dripped 2 drops of ancestral safflower oil onto the paper ball. Although the smell was extremely pungent, almost like having a tube of mustard swallowed whole, it was worth enduring a bit of discomfort if it could help reduce the foul odor. However, Qin Feng accidentally overlooked one point. Human senses are interconnected. Even if the nose can't detect the bad smell, the visual feedback to the brain will still conjure up the imagined scent. It's like when you see someone bite into a lemon. You can feel the sourness and your mouth starts watering uncontrollably. My friend, have you ever had a chocolate sundae? The kind with layers piled high, topped with 2 enoki mushrooms. And look, there's even a lump with chives. Faced with Qi Ming's playful teasing, Qin Feng suddenly found it hard to look at the word ice cream, especially that damned chocolate flavor. You little rascal, is it a bit nauseating? Qin Feng couldn't help but retch against the wall. The others, seeing this, burst into laughter. Then, glancing at the pit, their stomachs churned as well. In the end, even Qi Ming, the instigator, started gagging along. It was indeed a bit of a wound the enemy 800 self-inflicted 1,000 situation. However, feeling nauseous or not, the work still had to be done. In the military, no one spoils you. The tasks assigned must be completed without exception, with no room for negotiation. But in fact, compared to Li Jiaxing, they were still fortunate. Why? Because the restroom was clogged. At this moment, a brave soul was needed to jump into the cesspool and fulfill everyone's dreams with their own hands. As someone who lived a pampered life, even washing his face required facial cleanser, toner, and moisturizer, Li Jiaxing naturally didn't want to do such a disgusting thing. But did reluctance matter? Clearly, it didn't. Faced with Li Jiaxing's desperate pleas, Zhao Pingfei shut him down with one sentence. Who told you to be the deputy squad leader? The deputy squad leader has to take the lead. The dirtiest, hardest, and most challenging tasks must be handled by you first. Otherwise, what's the point of being a squad leader? Damn it. At that moment, Li Jiaxing regretted it deeply. If he could start over, he would choose Li Bai. No, he would rather die or jump off a building than be this deputy. But at this moment, apart from the high-protein creatures swimming in the yellow liquid, no one could see his tears or hear his silent cries. Qin Feng, come out. Qin Feng was holding his breath, using a hose to wash the dirt in the pit. Hearing someone call, he immediately turned around and found it was his squad leader, Zhou Shangfei. He handed the hose to Qi Ming and followed Zhou Shangfei to the outer wall. Squad leader, what instructions do you have? Looking at Qin Feng, who was wearing a mask and gloves, Zhou Shangfei couldn't help but chuckle. All right, take off the mask and gloves first. I need to discuss something with you. Yes. After taking off his gloves and mask, Qin Feng pulled out the crumpled paper from his nose. He took a deep breath of fresh air and finally felt alive again. For the first time, he realized how sweet the air outside was. Come on, let's have a smoke. Zhou Xiangfei shook the pack of cigarettes in his hand and offered him one. Qin Feng didn't reach out to take it, but glanced towards the restroom and the playground. Zhou Xiangfei smiled and said, "Don't worry, your class leader isn't here. And the squad leaders won't come to check either. Smoke freely." Without waiting for Qin Feng to respond, he stuffed a cigarette into his mouth. Blocking the wind slightly with his hand, he lit it with a snap. As the flame ignited, a wave of nicotine aroma spread through his lungs, driving away the foul smell from earlier. In that moment, Qin Feng felt as if he had been purified, feeling incredibly comfortable. But when he realized that the cigarette had been lit by Zhou Xiangfei, he was surprised. Chapter 35, with a rifle in hand, follow me. Qin Feng looked at Zhou Xiangfei with slight confusion. Squad leader, is there any instruction? Zhou Xiangfei shook his head with a smile. No instructions. Just wanted you to come out for some fresh air and have a casual chat. Also, I owe you a favor for what happened this morning. Qin Feng was taken aback and quickly shook his head. Squad leader, I actually didn't. Zhou Xiangfei raised his hand to interrupt him. If you hadn't persuaded Li Xiangkong and prevented the situation from escalating, my military career might have ended right there. You have no idea how much pressure there is in the military now. If this incident had happened, I would definitely have been kicked out. Therefore, to show my gratitude, anytime you want to smoke, just come to me. Although it's not the best brand, I can assure you there will be plenty. Qin Feng remained silent, unsure of what to say. He knew that his actions had saved a lot of people, but he never thought of asking for thanks or benefits. For him, it was simply fulfilling a task assigned by his superiors, nothing more. If he were in civilian life, he would undoubtedly seek benefits for himself without hesitation. But wearing a military uniform and being in the barracks, this was a soldier's duty and part of his responsibilities. No thanks. Qin Feng shook his head to refuse. Smoking too much will affect training. Zhou Xiangfei was momentarily stunned before bursting into laughter. He thought Qin Feng would say he was worried about his class leader knowing, which was why he didn't dare to accept. This kid's response was as clever as ever, meticulous. It was true that new recruits should smoke less. All right. Zhou Xiangfei put the cigarette away and continued. Qin Feng, you're very smart, smarter than any new recruit I've ever seen. I'm a straightforward person. I don't like to beat around the bush, and you might have already guessed my purpose for finding you. So, I won't hide it any longer. His expression turned serious. Our Red Fourth Company is a sharpshooter unit. The bullets we fire in a month exceed what many basic companies shoot in a year. Good marksmen are all made by bullets. Would you like to join our 4th squad as an outstanding sniper? The word sniper made Qin Feng's heart race a bit faster. What man doesn't like shooting? And for many, a sniper rifle is the ultimate dream. When he was very young, Qin Feng often fantasized about being a sniper. He would wrap himself in a blanket, lie still on the bed, holding a clothes hanger, closing one eye, pretending to aim at distant enemies. He even imagined scenarios of lying in the desert, holding it in even when he needed to pee, because snipers must remain as still as statues to complete their missions. In the popular shooting game CF, sniper rifles are among the most favored weapons for many players. Additionally, the character Caitlyn from LOL wields a sniper rifle, and her long range and high damage have kept her popularity high in the game. So why are sniper rifles so well liked? It's simply because they are cool. In ancient times, one could kill a person from 10 steps away without leaving a trace. Nowadays, a sniper rifle can take a life from a kilometer away amidst chaos. This has been well depicted in many domestic and international films and shows, such as 007, The Bourne Identity, John Wick, and My Brother is Called Shun Lu. When it comes to the term marksman, the scene that left the deepest impression on Qin Feng was from Special 2. When that familiar background music played, Wang Yanbing realized that the difference between an elite squad and a regular squad lies not just on the surface. This meme has since been creatively reinterpreted by many netizens, leading to some amusing jokes. For example, Wang Yanbing realized that the stir-fried potatoes at noon didn't actually have potatoes in them. Wang Yanbing realized that Li Erniu had become Li Erniu and looked quite impressive. Wang Yanbing realized that organizing a summer camp was much more promising than filming. Interestingly, the squad that Zhou Xiangfei belongs to is also the 4th squad, and it's also a marksman squad. So what do you think? Do you want to join us? Your intellect and logical thinking completely meet the qualifications of a top-tier marksman. As long as you come, I guarantee our squad leader will nurture you. You can shoot as many bullets as you want, and practice with any weapon you choose. Zhou Xiangfei's words struck a chord with Qin Feng. This kind of treatment is indeed hard to resist. Besides the marksman squad, which other squad can make such bold claims? You have to know that most grassroots units have limited ammunition, so most of the time, they can only focus on physical training. But the marksman squad is different. Their main focus is shooting, and they practically sleep with their guns every day. Seeing that Qin Feng was somewhat tempted, Zhou Xiangfei felt a surge of joy and continued. I don't know if you've played CF before. There's a gun in CF called the Big Sniper. If you aim at the foot, one shot can take away half a leg. We have that in our squad, and each team has one. As long as you are willing to come, I can make the decision privately and let you have a great time. Damn, this is so unfair. Qin Feng felt an irresistible itch in his heart. The sniper rifle was already tempting enough, and now there's a big sniper rifle. The big sniper, officially known as a large-caliber sniper rifle, is also referred to as an anti-material sniper rifle. Strictly speaking, in terms of power, this thing doesn't really belong to the category of firearms. It's more accurate to call it a cannon. Its power can penetrate a certain thickness of armor and can even destroy armored vehicles, helicopters, missiles, and various military equipment. Additionally, it can be paired with many specialized bullets in different situations, such as armor-piercing rounds, explosive rounds, high-explosive rounds, and long-range sniper rounds. One could say this is the ultimate romance for every passionate man. It's the dream weapon that Qin Feng has always desired. He couldn't even imagine how impressive it would be to take this onto the battlefield. Just imagine, two enemies standing hundreds of meters away. One shot, and they explode into a mist of blood. I wouldn't even leave them a whole corpse. How about that? Exciting, right? Only our squad can enjoy such treatment. Zhou Shangfei knew that no man could resist such temptation. A sniper rifle, along with a big sniper, would make even the gods tremble. Back then, he was similarly lured into this squad by the squad leader. Of course, Zhou Shangfei did achieve his dream of shooting to his heart's content. Faced with the extreme temptation offered by Zhou Shangfei, Qin Feng hesitated for a long time before finally giving his answer. Chapter 36. Squad Leader, you're great. But I have someone in my heart. I'm not going. I'd rather die than go. By the sewage pit. A soldier from the first squad was dragged over by their squad leader. In the afternoon, the entire company was having a major cleanup. And the first squad was responsible for cleaning all the toilets in the dormitory building from top to bottom. It is well known that the hygiene standards in the military are quite strict. Even the toilets must be scrubbed spotless. Therefore, squad leader Yang Kaifeng required everyone in the squad to use steel wool and scrub the latrines on their hands and knees. However, this particular soldier flatly refused, cursing and saying, "I'm here to be a soldier, not to do cleaning, and definitely not to scrub toilets," claiming he wanted to show them a thing or two. To this, Yang Kaifeng replied, "I'm already good-looking enough, I don't need you to make it better." Thus, he showed no leniency towards this soldier. You think you're too good to scrub a toilet with steel wool, and you want to complain to me? Fine. If you don't want to scrub the toilets, I'll make you go down into the pit and scoop out the waste. Squad leader, I was wrong. Don't make me go down, I beg you. I really beg you. I've never done dirty work at home. I didn't mean to. Squad leader, I'll give you money. Just let me off this time. Facing the soldier's desperate pleas, Yang Kaifeng grabbed him by the collar and lifted him up. Now you're scared? Where were you earlier? You're here yapping at me and even have the nerve to throw threats, telling me to wait? Fine, I'm right here waiting. Get down there and work right now. I'll be watching from the side. If you don't finish, you'll be spending the night soaking in the cesspool. At that moment, Li Jiaxing, who was diligently working in the cesspool, witnessed the scene and couldn't help but cast a look of deep contempt at the new recruit. Pathetic. Throwing a fit over a little dirty, hard work? And even trying to bribe the squad leader? Disgusting. What a shameless fool. By comparison, Li Jiaxing suddenly felt incredibly noble and enlightened. At that moment, he was practically puffing his chest out from under his camouflage uniform, brimming with pride. Even the motion of scooping waste with his little yellow basin became more vigorous. It was a clear display of someone unbothered by filth, willing to endure hardship, and highly principled. Look at him, then look at yourself. Yang Kaifeng pointed at Li Jiaxing, who was toiling diligently below. You're both here as soldiers. Why can you handle it, but you can't? If you're afraid of getting dirty or tired, then get the hell out and go home to drink milk. Don't bother serving in the army. Get down there now, you disgrace. With that, the soldier was kicked down by Yang Kaifeng, who then tossed him a small yellow basin, ordering him to follow Li Jiaxing's lead and get to work. At that moment, Li Jiaxing seemed almost possessed by the spirit of a triumphant meme. His lips curled so high they could hooked fish. He even took on the role of a seasoned veteran, guiding the young newcomer. Be bolder, don't hesitate. Don't fill the basin too full when scooping. Or it'll spill. Don't think of it as shoveling waste. Imagine you're soaking in a hot spring. These were all hard-earned lessons Li Jiaxing had learned through personal experience. Seeing the recruit finally fall in line, Yang Kaifeng left him to it and headed to another spot, intending to sneak a cigarette and unwind. But as soon as he turned the corner, he spotted Zhou Shangfei and Qin Feng talking under the shade of a nearby tree. I'm sorry, platoon leader, but I've already promised our squad leader. Hearing Qin Feng's words, Zhou Shangfei's smile froze. The early bird catches the worm. Zhao Pengfei had clearly made his move first. Aren't you even a little tempted? To be honest, I am. After all, what man doesn't enjoy handling firearms? Qin Feng's response made Zhou Shangfei's eyes light up, sensing an opportunity. But the next words poured cold water on his hopes. However, I've already given my word to our squad leader. No matter how appealing or tempting your offer is, I can't accept it. It must be said that Qin Feng's reply was exceptionally tactful. Even in rejection, Zhou Shangfei felt no displeasure. Because Qin Feng made it clear that he, too, was drawn to the fourth company. Yet, simply because Zhao Pengfei had approached him first and he already made a commitment, he had to reluctantly decline. Qin Feng didn't disparage one unit to praise another. Nor did he resort to far-fetched excuses. He genuinely believed that both the fourth and sixth companies had their own strengths and were outstanding units in their own right. However, it is precisely his character and qualities that strengthened Zhou Shangfei's determination to bring Qin Feng to the fourth company. In the army, there is no soldier who does not appreciate a thoughtful and clever comrade. The brash and arrogant characters seen in TV dramas are just for show. One should never take them seriously. Throwing dishes and cursing, defying superiors, and disobeying orders while expecting recognition? Anyone with a bit of common sense wouldn't come up with such a ridiculous plot. It's like an intern confronting company leadership and even slapping the boss, only to have the boss not only remain calm, but also promote them to general manager with a tenfold salary increase. So, what leaders truly appreciate are those who have principles, understand obedience, and can execute tasks assigned by superiors to the best of their ability within the scope of obedience. If Zhou Shangfei could bring such a gem back to the fourth company, the company commander would surely be thrilled. Qin Feng, do you know what the Steel Knife Company does? Just agree with Zhao Pengfei? I don't know, but I believe the squad leader won't harm me. Zhou Shangfei was momentarily at a loss for words. I think you need to truly choose a unit that suits you and can maximize your talents. You are level-headed and have keen judgment. You are practically made for being a sniper. Therefore, I still hope you can think about it more. While Zhou Shangfei was gently persuading, he didn't forget to slip in his own agenda, leaving Qin Feng both amused and exasperated. However, with the conversation reaching this point, Qin Feng couldn't firmly refuse. After all, Zhou Shangfei was a squad leader, and he had to maintain face. So, he could only politely say that he would consider it carefully. However, in his heart, Qin Feng had already made up his mind to go to the sixth company. He also knew that there would definitely be snipers there. As for the sniper rifle, as long as Qin Feng performed well after joining, he would naturally have the chance to get his hands on one, albeit with fewer bullets. But what Qin Feng was most longing for was that rifle capable of making a target's head separate from their body with a single shot. That was truly his dream weapon. He wondered if the Steel Knife Company had something like that. Forget it, he thought. He shouldn't be too greedy. Suddenly, Zhou Shangfei pulled out a bottle of energy drink from his pocket and handed it to him. Drink this after training when you're tired. Qin Feng hesitated a bit because he felt that this was somewhat inappropriate. If the squad leader found out, he would probably be very unhappy. It was like having been getting haircuts at the same barbershop and becoming friends with the owner, only to suddenly switch to another shop and run into the original owner afterward. Although he hadn't done anything wrong, it would still feel very awkward. It resembled the feeling of being caught cheating. Squad leader, maybe not. Oh, it's just a bottle of drink. Your squad leader isn't that stingy. Take it. That's an order. With that, Zhou Shangfei forcefully shoved the bottle of energy drink into Qin Feng's hand. One should be soft-hearted when receiving favors and short when eating from others' hands. Anyway, showing goodwill can't be wrong. All right, you stay here for now. The smell inside is too strong. I'll go check if those guys are slacking off. As Zhou Shangfei turned to leave, he was suddenly startled by Zhao Pengfei, who stood behind him like a ghost. Zhao Pengfei had a gloomy expression and was holding a can of chilled soda. It was clear that this soda wasn't tea for him. Otherwise, he would have opened it by now. The intended recipient was obvious. Zhou Shangfei's face gradually turned pale, and sweat poured down like a faucet. Although Zhao Pengfei hadn't said a word, his furious presence was deafening to Zhou Shangfei. Chapter 37. You're eyeing my soldiers. You shameless. What were you just doing? I don't know. I didn't do anything. Faced with Zhao Pengfei's questioning, Zhou Shangfei chose to play dumb, denying everything. His strategy was simple. As long as he didn't admit to it, there was no evidence against him. Zhao Pengfei angrily dragged him to a slightly more secluded spot. Once he confirmed that Qin Feng couldn't hear their conversation, he completely exploded. Zhou Shangfei, don't think I don't know what you're trying to do. Sending energy drinks? You're just waiting for me to be gone to covet my soldiers, you shameless one. Now that he was exposed, Zhou Shangfei stopped pretending and looked defiant. What do you mean, your soldiers? They are the country's soldiers, the troops' soldiers, the people's soldiers. Besides, I just asked him if he had that intention. What is it to you? Those are my squad's soldiers. I'm their squad leader. Zhao Pengfei was furious. Even if you want to ask, you should go through me first. What? I'm a squad leader. And I can't have a conversation with a new recruit without your approval, the little squad leader? Who's in charge here? Bullshit squad leader. Just a temporary position. Why act all high and mighty? Zhao Pengfei ignored him. If it weren't for the connection with the company commander, how could you, a second-term sergeant, stand over me? Zhou Shangfei was also fired up. What do you mean by that? Are you implying I got in through the back door? I earned this position as squad leader fair and square. Zhao Pengfei rolled his eyes. If you really had the ability. Your soldierly Xiangkong wouldn't be making such a fuss about wanting to withdraw from service because of a breakup. If you really had the skill, don't ask our class as Qin Feng for help. Clean up your own mess. You. Zhou Shangfei's face turned red, nearly choking on his words. He took several deep breaths to calm down a bit, then sneered and waved his hand dismissively. I want to argue with you here. Let us settle it next time in a competition, and we'll see who really got the skills. Just wait and see if I can take you down. Oh, I'm so scared. You frightened me to death. Zhao Pengfei exaggeratedly shrank his neck. Last time in the competition, who was it that ambushed me like a fool with a sniper rifle and ended up getting caught from behind? That was an accident. Stop making excuses. If you're outmatched, you're just outmatched. As the conversation was becoming unproductive, Zhou Shangfei quickly raised his hand to signal a stop, looking visibly impatient. All right. We're here to talk about Qin Feng. Why are we getting off track? Zhao Pengfei glanced at him and chuckled. Haha. You know what it means to change the subject. In any case, no more schemes against Qin Feng. He is already reserved by our 6th squad. Although the 6th squad and the 4th squad are brother units. Don't expect our squad leader to relent on such matters. Zhou Shangfei snorted coldly, unwilling to back down. What if he thinks our sharpshooters in the 4th squad are better and wants to come to us? There's only one chance to split the troops and head to the new squad. If you choose wrong, there's no turning back. You have to respect personal choices. Not everyone wants to join your retro unit, and not everyone wants to eat that bland food every day. At least, I didn't choose your 6th squad back in the day. Well, that's why you lost, Zhao Pengfei shot back. Damn it, that was an accident. Zhou Shangfei retorted. In the competition, I had you down. Zhao Pengfei, you bastard. It's no use cursing me. You were the one who lost. Damn, why can't we get past this? Zhou Shangfei was fuming. I only messed up that one time, just once. But he dared not say more. Because no matter what he said, Zhao Pengfei would always come back with, you lost to me. In fact, during that competition, the main reason Zhou Shangfei was ambushed by Zhao Pengfei was that his observer had been taken out. On the battlefield, snipers and observers typically work together. Without an observer, it's like being blind in one eye. You see, snipers often have to lie still for hours, even a whole day, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. During this time, they are at their most vulnerable, as they cannot maintain mobility, thus increasing the risk of exposure. Without the observer's assistance, the blind spots in their field of vision multiply, naturally heightening the risk of being detected. Those who have played games know that ADCs, attack damage carriers, deal high damage but are usually fragile with low health. The Steel Knife unit excels in individual combat, especially veterans like Zhao Pengfei, who are often elusive, much like assassins. Without support, an ADC can easily become an easy target, and that's just the way it is. All right, I want to argue with you. You said it yourself, no more schemes against Qin Feng. Zhou Shangfei was lost for words. This guy was as stubborn as a piece of chewing gum. For now, he could only pretend to agree and set this matter aside. After all, the training had just begun, and he could always find a way to connect with Qin Feng later. 3 months was enough time for him to do a lot. But just as they finished their discussion and were about to head back, both of them froze. Not far away, in the shade of a tree, another person had joined Qin Feng. It was the squad leader, Yang Kaifeng. That guy looked sneaky, like a bear trying to steal a robe, clearly up to no good. What is going on? What is happening? Zhao Pengfei rushed forward like a protective hen, the first to react. Yang Kaifeng was taken aback. The main person returned so quickly? He was still thinking about how to benefit from the conflict. When he saw Zhao Pengfei storming towards him, he immediately forced a smile, secretly hiding his hand behind his back. I didn't do anything. Didn't he do anything? Zhao Pengfei stared at him suspiciously. Meanwhile, Zhou Shangfei sneaked around to the back and spotted the AD calcium milk Yang Kaifeng was hiding. Wow, as a squad leader, you really have some nerve. We're bringing Red Bull and Coke, and you brought a bottle of AD calcium milk? You think you're here to entertain kids? Zhao Pengfei was furious upon seeing this. As a squad leader, Zhou Shangfei's intentions were questionable enough. Yet this guy with thick eyebrows and big eyes also wanted to dig a hole for him. Yang Kaifeng's face turned red, and he quickly defended himself. Who's digging a hole? I just saw Qin Feng standing here doing nothing, so I came to ask what is going on. Ask what is going on. What do you mean bringing AD calcium milk? This is just nonsense. Chapter 38. 3 parties compete. Is being too outstanding a mistake? Zhao Pengfei didn't care about Yang Kaifeng's status as a squad leader. This guy wasn't even from his company. Besides, the squad leader position in the new recruits company was only a temporary role with little real power. Therefore, Zhao Pengfei completely ignored him and had no intention of giving him any respect. You're trying to dig a hole for me. Why should I give you face? He directly looked at Qin Feng and coldly asked, Qin Feng, did the squad leader ask you to join him? Qin Feng looked at the situation before him, genuinely unsure how to respond. He anticipated that several people would come looking for him during a simple cleaning duty. In fact, Yang Kaifeng did come to ask him how he was considering things, and even brought the family SAD calcium milk to offer him. But before Qin Feng could refuse, the two of them had already stormed back in anger. Seeing Qin Feng at a loss for words, Zhao Pengfei became even more certain that Yang Kaifeng was trying to dig a hole for him. In the military, the most taboo and detested thing is undermining others. Because what you're undermining isn't just a position, but the fresh blood of a unit's future. In Special 2, the character Fan Tianqing is so disliked mainly because he used his words to deceive and poach 3 prized recruits from the Iron Fist Regiment that had been carefully nurtured. Zhao Pengfei hated 2 types of people the most: those who steal his peaches and those who prevent him from picking peaches. Old Yang, have you crossed the line? Exactly. You're digging people right from our second squad? Faced with Zhao Pengfei's aggressive questioning, Yang Kaifeng decided to stop pretending. Fine. I'll lay my cards on the table. Ever since Qin Feng started his little duty, I felt this kid was right for me. Instead of letting him be neglected in your class, why not bring him to our class to fully develop his potential? Zhao Pengfei was so furious he was about to explode. Zhou Shangfei wanted to finish the task before claiming any rewards. You old rascal actually think you can take everything away now? And even get transferred to your class? How shameless can you be? Wait a minute. Zhou Shangfei suddenly realized. Lao Yang, what do you mean by saying that Qin Feng is not valued in class 4? Why don't you ask him? Yang Kaifeng glanced at Zhao Pengfei, looking quite displeased. Let's be honest, with Qin Feng's abilities, isn't it reasonable for him to be a deputy class leader? But do you know that this guy can't even become a deputy class leader in class 4? If that is not being undervalued, then what is it? Zhao Pengfei, you are going a bit too far. Even Zhou Shangfei began to stand up for Qin Feng. Although being a deputy class leader is a nominal position, it greatly helps with staying in the team, promotions, and being recognized as an outstanding soldier in the future. To be honest, are you jealous that he has more skills than you did when you first joined, and are trying to suppress him on purpose? When did I ever do such a thing? Zhao Pengfei was so anxious he almost jumped up. At this moment, Qin Feng was also bewildered. They say 3 women make a scene. I think 3 men can create quite a commotion too. Alright, stop pretending. We've seen through you long ago. Yes. You are just envious and jealous that he is more talented than you, deliberately obstructing his development. Qin Feng, tell us. Has Zhao Pengfei ever made things difficult for you in class? Don't worry, just say it. The squad leaders will back you up. Qin Feng was at a loss for words. What is this nonsense? Where's this going? He quickly shook his head to deny it. But the 2 squad leaders insisted he wasn't telling the truth. They even said that if he was being threatened, he could just blink at them. This was making Qin Feng completely confused. Forget it, let us just stay quiet. Zhao Pengfei was at a loss for words, feeling extremely frustrated. The position of deputy class leader was clearly something Qin Feng didn't want to take. So how did it turn into him suppressing him? Damn it. It's like falling into a muddy pit. Even if it's not, it might as well be. 20 minutes later, the big cleanup was finally over. The restroom, through everyone's joint effort, became as clean as new. Although some old stains had fused with the tiles and couldn't be removed, at least there was no more foul smell, only the fresh scent of disinfectant. Everyone took off their masks, packed their things, and was ready to leave with their small buckets. But just halfway, Qin Feng suddenly stopped and turned back to ask, did we forget something? Hearing that, I felt like we might have forgotten something. Qi Ming thought for a moment, then suddenly slapped his forehead. Oh no. It seems we left the water hose by the sink. But as everyone turned back to get the water hose, a sudden sound of squelching footsteps came from behind. It sounded like feet stepping in mud. Accompanying it was a strong, unpleasant odor and a buzzing noise. Everyone turned around and was immediately startled. They saw Li Jiaxing walking over angrily, leaving yellow footprints behind like an astronaut. Surrounded by flies, it felt like a sage emerging from seclusion, with auspicious clouds coming from the east for thousands of miles. You bunch of jerks, you finished your work and left without calling me, leaving me alone in this mess. Hey, if you're going to talk, don't come over here. The crowd quickly stepped back in disgust, as if afraid of being tainted by the stench. Li Jiaxing, who was isolated, was already furious, and seeing everyone's disdainful expressions made him explode like Godzilla. He roared and lunged at the crowd, flailing his arms. Damn it. You got that on me. Ah, my pants. Get the hose, quick. Use water, not urine. Spray him down. Hurry up. Under Qin Feng's command, a group of people scrambled to connect the hose. The faucet was turned to the maximum, spraying Li Jiaxing with a torrent of water. Chen Sanqi and Qi Ming each grabbed a mop and swung it at Li Jiaxing while rhythmically shouting, retreat, retreat, retreat. Qin Feng thought to himself that it was childish, then picked up a broom and eagerly joined in, shouting louder than anyone else. As Li Jiaxing suffered defeat, everyone began to indiscriminately spray each other with hoses. Crystal clear water droplets fell from above, reflecting rainbow colors in the sunlight. Everyone from class 4 was playing and laughing outside the restroom, carefree as if they were at a water park or amusement park. Under the setting sun, figures drenched and carrying buckets, mops, and hoses walked across the playground. The slanting sunlight stretched their shadows on the ground like pulled noodles. A gentle breeze blew. The youth and passion of the boys soared freely on the playground, shining brightly in the barracks. Chapter 39. Helping each other. A pair of red steel must be forged, iron must be struck, the sword must be sharpened, the gun must be cleaned. Soldiers love the training ground, where sweat nurtures the flowers of heroes. At 7:35 p.m., the evening news ended. The new recruits returned to their dorms one after another, and the squad leader called for the first class meeting of the new recruits. It can be understood as a class meeting from school. The purpose is to identify and solve problems. At the same time, it allows Zhao Pengfei, the leader, to better understand the new recruits in the class. After singing a military song, Zhao Pengfei called for everyone to sit down. The new recruits immediately formed 2 rows, sitting upright on their stools. With their backs straight and hands resting on their knees, they already looked a bit like soldiers. Zhao Pengfei opened his notebook and picked up a pen, scanning the crowd. We will go in order, and each comrade will report on their work situation since joining the army. Finally, I will comment, convey the spirit of the meeting, and outline the next steps. He then looked at the first soldier on the left. That soldier immediately stood up. Report, squad leader, my thoughts have been stable this week. All eyes focused on him. Zhao Pengfei's face immediately darkened. The soldier felt a chill down his spine, unsure of what he had said wrong. Zhao Pengfei looked at him expressionlessly. I am giving you another opportunity to report your work. Speak well and seriously. The soldier shivered in fear and quickly changed his tone. I have been finding ways to slack off during training. My mindset is weak. I can't get up in the morning, I can't fold my blanket properly, I eat a lot, and relieve myself even more. Zhao Pengfei snorted, and his expression improved slightly. As this was the first class meeting for the new recruits, he needed to hear each recruit's honest report on their situation. Additionally, the company commander emphasized in the morning meeting that class leaders should focus on understanding the true thoughts of the new recruits to prevent incidents similar to those in the 6th class from happening again. How dare you play this kind of trivial talk with me to brush me off? That's just asking for trouble. Once the soldier finished his report, Zhao Pengfei finally put down his pen and provided feedback. It is natural for new recruits to be unaccustomed to military life. From now on, whether in training, discipline, or mindset, you must hold yourself to a high standard. Can you do that? Yes. Very good. Sit down. Zhao Pengfei waved his hand and then looked at Chen Sanqi, switching to the local dialect. It's your turn. Yes. The familiar warmth made Chen Sanqi smile and stand up. However, at this moment, he was unusually at a loss for words, scratching his head. I don't really know what to say. Just tell us about the changes you've experienced since joining the army, and what is different between the army and home. Zhao Pengfei was relatively polite when speaking to this fellow villager and did not show a stern face. Chen Sanqi thought for a moment. The food in the army is much better than at home. We have chicken, duck, fish, and meat. I've only been here a few days, but I feel like I've gained a lot of strength. Look at the muscle on my arm. Isn't it obvious? As he spoke, he rolled up his sleeve to show off what he called his poor muscles. The crowd laughed. They had noticed this too. Although they had only been in the army for a few days, they felt their physical fitness had improved significantly. Previously, they couldn't even do 15 push-ups at home. But now they could easily do 30 or 40 in one go. Plus, with regular sleep schedules, no late nights, and no need to constantly be on their phones, their mental state had improved a lot. However, the benefits of military life go far beyond these. Why do many employers especially prefer to hire veterans? Because every soldier who has been tempered by military training possesses special qualities and resilience that are uncommon among ordinary people. Following orders and overcoming difficulties is the life creed of many active duty and retired soldiers. Perhaps you have seen in the news that many people, due to broken relationships or business failures, seek to end their lives. But have you ever heard of a veteran being in such a situation? The reason is simple. They have already forged a solid physique and a strong, resilient heart during their time in the military. Even when faced with mountain floods, tsunamis, earthquakes, or fires, they show no fear at all. If a strong enemy invades, even without weapons, they dare to charge to the front with nothing but a selfie stick. This is the heroic nature of the soldiers from that nation. At this moment, Zhao Pengfei nodded with a smile, signaling Chen Sanqi to continue. I always mess up during training. When the squad leader tells us to turn left, I always turn right, and I end up getting punished and scolded. And my blanket, I can never fold it properly, and it always gets thrown out. I've been thrown out the most in our class, Chen Sanqi said, his eyes suddenly filled with grievance. This morning, his blanket was the worst folded in the whole class, and as a result, the squad leader threw it into the toilet. When he retrieved it, it was soaked in water. He wanted to take it out to dry, but Qin Feng told him that blankets must not be dried outside. as the cotton would expand and make it even harder to fold. This left Chen Sanchi feeling both frustrated and wronged. And just thinking about it made him want to cry. Zhao Pengfei spoke up to comfort him. Folding blankets is a process. Everyone starts from nothing. The squad leader doesn't want to throw your blanket away, but I've also walked this path. I just want to tell you that throwing blankets is not the goal. It's to help you remember and do better next time. However, you need to quickly resolve the issue of not being able to fold your blanket properly, or it will hold the whole class back. He then turned his attention to Qin Feng. Qin Feng, your housekeeping skills are the best in our class. For the time being, help Chen Sanchi improve. Yes. Qin Feng had no objections to the squad leader's order. He also knew that there is a tradition in the military of helping each other out. Similar to study groups in school, where those who perform well help those who struggle, allowing both sides to progress together. With the help, Chen Sanchi's mood changed instantly. And he revealed his signature smile again, even turning his head to wink at Qin Feng. After Chen Sanchi sat down, it was Qi Ming's turn to stand up. Squad leader, my biggest realization since joining the army is. He scratched his head, a bit shy, and said, it turns out veterans are really capable. Qi Ming's words drew laughter from everyone. Even Zhao Pengfei couldn't help but smile. He had noticed since the morning call that Qi Ming hadn't quite let go of that incident. Otherwise, he wouldn't have been crying over the phone like a child reporting to their family after being scolded. First, I need to correct you a bit. Not all veterans are this capable. You just happened to pick the wrong opponent. By the way, I forgot to tell you. Before joining the army, I practiced kickboxing. Now, do you understand? Qi Ming slapped his thigh and chuckled bitterly. No wonder I couldn't win. Before joining the army, I was just training in kickboxing and have been rolling around in the military for over 10 years. If I could beat someone, that would be a real miracle. But this also made Qi Ming realize that there are indeed hidden talents in the military. Some people seem insignificant, like a short gourd that has rolled through a pile of coal. In reality, he might just be a hidden powerhouse, so one must not provoke him lightly. Zhao Pengfei smiled and said, however, through this incident, you should also understand a principle. One must have self-awareness and cannot be blindly confident. Otherwise, there will definitely be a price to pay. Let me put it this way. You think I'm already impressive, right? But in our unit, my level can only rank third at best. Qi Ming's eyelids twitched violently, suddenly feeling a bit overwhelmed. This was no longer about finding the right opponent. It felt like kicking a steel plate. Seeing the subtle pride on Zhao Pengfei's face, Qin Feng thought to himself, class leader, you really understand the essence of showing off. Although Zhao Pengfei had a hint of arrogance, he indeed had the credentials to back it up. With over 10,000 people in the unit, standing out among so many is truly impressive. Therefore, it wasn't that Qi Ming was weak. Rather, he was just unfortunate to face a big shot right from the start. If he had challenged the squad leaders of the 5th or 6th class, he probably wouldn't have been beaten so badly. Zhao Pengfei teased, so? You really should thank Qin Feng for saving you back then. Otherwise, if I had really gone all out, you would probably still be lying in the hospital with your arm in a cast. Qi Ming nodded, still feeling a bit shaken. When he first arrived, if the class leader had said something like that, he would have thought he was just showing off. But after taking a beating, he was completely convinced of Zhao Pengfei's strength. At the same time, Qi Ming turned to Qin Feng and cast a grateful glance, raising his fist to tap his chest twice. Brothers for life? In his heart, Qin Feng naturally understood the meaning of this gesture and returned a polite smile. However, he couldn't help but feel curious. If Zhao Pengfei was so formidable, yet only ranked third in the unit, what kind of strength did the first and second place possess? If he could learn their fighting skills, wouldn't he soar to new heights? At this moment, Qin Feng's heart raced, feeling an insatiable urge. He wished he could sit on a rocket and grow rapidly, looking for opportunities to challenge the top 2 once he joined the team. The more he sparred with strong opponents, the more he could learn and the faster he would progress. Of course, to challenge the top 2, he first had to get past Zhao Pengfei. The new generation always pushes the previous one forward, stronger than the last. Thus, Qin Feng had already set Zhao Pengfei as his target to surpass, preparing to take him down on the beach in the near future. At this moment, Zhao Pengfei was completely unaware of Qin Feng's audacious thoughts. After all, anyone who dared to think like that after witnessing his strength must have been incredibly bold. Zhao Pengfei then called over several new recruits, asking about their training experiences and changes in mentality, making detailed notes in his notebook. These tasks would need to be organized and submitted to the unit later. Due to the recent situation in the 6th squad, the squad leader and instructor placed great importance on the content and outcomes of the first squad meeting for the new recruits. Therefore, Zhao Pengfei needed to ask as detailed questions as possible to avoid any omissions. He then shifted his gaze to the next person, who was Li Jiaxing, someone who claimed to come from an ordinary background but had a family fortune. After standing up, Li Jiaxing's demeanor was unusually serious and solemn, lacking his usual smug smile. He hesitated for a moment before speaking up. Report, squad leader, I voluntarily give up the position of deputy squad leader. As soon as Li Jiaxing finished speaking, a stir erupted in the squad. Clearly, everyone was caught off guard, including Zhao Pengfei. Initially, he had planned to talk to Li Jiaxing privately after the meeting. But he didn't expect Li Jiaxing to take the initiative to give up his position. It was known that since joining the military, this guy had always acted like a rich, spoiled young master. Just that morning, he had called home, boasting about becoming a small leader in the army. How could he suddenly choose to give it up? This piqued Zhao Pengfei's curiosity. He squinted and asked, Li Jiaxing, you're not trying to back out because of the cleanup this afternoon, are you? Li Jiaxing quickly shook his head, squad leader. It has nothing to do with this afternoon's incident. The deputy squad leader should take the lead. As the saying goes, if I don't go to hell, who will? There's nothing more to say about it. Zhao Pengfei was taken aback by Li Jiaxing's sudden realization. Then why did you suddenly come up with this idea? It's not sudden, Li Jiaxing replied with a bitter smile. Actually, I've been thinking about it for several days. My abilities truly aren't enough to handle the deputy squad leader position. Over the past few days, I've made several mistakes, and my training performance has been mediocre. My internal affairs aren't even the best in our squad. That is not how you should think. Zhao Pengfei, on the contrary, became serious and took on the role of a persuader. You just joined the military. Making mistakes is inevitable. As long as you learn from them and actively correct them, the squad leader still has high hopes for you. Li Jiaxing, of course, did not realize that Zhao Pengfei was speaking ironically. Let us just leave it at that. Squad leader, he said with a pained expression, shaking his head. I've made up my mind. I'm really not cut out for this role. A few days of indulgence is enough. Using your own words, one must have self-awareness and not be blindly confident. Otherwise, one will definitely get slapped in the face. In fact, during the argument with Qi Ming that day, he had said something quite right. Oh, what did he say? Zhao Pengfei asked, looking at Qi Ming with confusion. Li Jiaxing pointed at himself in a dazed manner. Did I say that? Li Jiaxing shot him a glance. I remember it clearly, word for word. I actually know I'm not suited for this role. The reason I wanted to be the deputy was purely to show off and act impressive. To be honest, during these days as the deputy class leader, I've been feeling quite anxious, and I haven't been sleeping well at night. Is the pressure really that high? Zhao Pengfei asked, somewhat surprised. Yeah, I'm really afraid of saying something wrong during the day, and then at night they might come and give me a good beating under the covers. This remark, combined with Li Jiaxing's pitiful expression, immediately drew laughter from everyone. Ha ha ha, it's not that bad, really not. You're just a bit mouthy, love to show off, and lack abilities, but other aspects are pretty good. Li Jiaxing twitched his eye. So are there really any advantages? Qi Ming laughed and said, at least you dared to jump in and clean up this afternoon. I wouldn't have the courage to do that. Right. Just for that, we admire you. I would like to call you the waste hero. What the heck is a waste hero? Li Jiaxing thought to himself, but a hint of pride appeared on his face. After all, he had indeed challenged the impossible and successfully conquered himself. Even if he encounters those veterans in the future, he would still have the strength to fight back. Question, would you dare to jump into the cesspit and scoop it out with your bare hands? Veteran, question, just asking if you dare? Veteran trembled. I don't dare. Kneeling to you. Yes, I, Li Jiaxing, am now truly terrifyingly strong. Zhao Pengfei naturally was unaware of Li Jiaxing's inner monologue. However, he felt a deep sense of satisfaction with this kid's transformation. The fact that he could recognize himself and acknowledge his mistakes showed that he had indeed grown during this time. Zhao Pengfei generously praised Li Jiaxing. You're a smart kid. You just haven't used your thoughts in the right way. As long as you can adjust your attitude, I believe you will achieve even better breakthroughs. After receiving the praise, Li Jiaxing's face relaxed into a smile, and he felt much happier inside. In fact, before he stood up, he wasn't thinking about these things. But somehow, when Zhao Pengfei pointed out to him, he suddenly recalled what Qin Feng had said to him that day when he came out of the big restroom. If you didn't show off and act all high and mighty, I would be very willing to be friends with you. Li Jiaxing, don't you get tired pretending every day? Tired? Li Jiaxing was almost exhausted. Playing in the water outside the restroom after finishing work was really incredibly joyful. He hadn't spent a single penny, yet it was more enjoyable than spending money at a water park with a bunch of friends. He wanted to bond with everyone, wanted to be brothers with them, and especially wanted to hear Chun Sanqi call him Brother Sheng. So, after a fierce internal struggle, Li Jiaxing ultimately chose to let go. At this moment, Qin Feng was also quite surprised by Li Jiaxing's transformation. He knew this kid would eventually come to his senses, but he didn't expect it to happen so soon. Indeed, people grow through self-denial and doubt. At every stage, you will think that your previous self was foolish. Qin Feng had experienced countless moments in his past life where he felt he was quite foolish. For example, he always felt that the version of himself who used to sport a non-mainstream hairstyle, dressed in flashy outfits, and wrote nonsensical posts in a trendy style was particularly foolish. After starting work, he thought the version of himself from university, who styled his hair like an adult and often mingled in student organizations pretending to be mature, was also quite foolish. The most ridiculous, however, was when he once posted, "My life feels like walking on thin ice" on social media, only to earn the nickname Thin Ice Guy the very next day. Damn, it was utterly embarrassing. Fortunately, he had traveled to another world. Otherwise, that nickname would have stuck with him for who knows how long. This goes to show that no one is born perfect. Qin Feng is just someone who keeps moving forward through constant adjustments and trial and error. This has slowly shaped his character and his calm, mature way of handling things. So whether it's Li Jiajing, Qi Ming, or the somewhat awkward Qin Sanchi, they will all grow and improve through their own experiences of trial and error. As the saying goes, it's better to learn from losses early on, and that's the point. Li Jiajing, are you sure you thought this through? I'm the class monitor. I know what I'm doing. But if you step down, who will take your place? Zhao Pengfei asked, feigning difficulty as he threw out the question. Class monitor. I think Qin Feng is very suitable for the position of deputy class monitor. Whether it's training, internal affairs, or social skills, he is far more capable than I am. Li Jiajing answered without hesitation. The deputy position was originally given to him by Qin Feng. The truth is, Qin Feng is truly capable, so this is just returning the role to its rightful owner. Moreover, Li Jiajing understood the principle of joining forces when you can't win. Now that we've swapped roles, if you take the lead, you've got to look after me. I can't fold the blankets, so you have to teach me. If my cleaning isn't up to par, you have to cover for me. Most importantly, if the toilet gets clogged during the next big cleanup, I'm not going down there. Whoever is the deputy can do it. As soon as Li Jiajing finished speaking, he immediately received responses from others. Qi Ming and Qin Sanchi stood up one after the other, declaring that the position of deputy monitor rightfully belongs to Qin Feng. The others had also genuinely experienced the benefits Qin Feng provided when he took on small duties, so they naturally supported him wholeheartedly. Seeing the unanimous support from the crowd, Zhao Pengfei cast a playful glance at Qin Feng. Oh, so many people support you? I remember someone saying they lacked the ability, right? Didn't they mention they couldn't win over the crowd? Qin Feng's eyelids twitched. Damn it, you really hold a grudge, don't you? Zhao Pengfei snorted coldly. Are you still sitting there? Hurry up and express your stance. Yes. Qin Feng quickly jumped up from his seat and said seriously, thank you all for your trust. I will definitely live up to everyone's expectations and do my best as the deputy class monitor. Applause. Zhao Pengfei tucked his notebook under his arm and led the applause. You say I don't take it seriously, that I suppress Qin Feng's development? You guys really think you have any excuses left now? The others followed suit, clapping enthusiastically. Li Jiajing was smiling brightly, applauding the hardest. He couldn't wait to see the next scene where Qin Feng jumped into the cesspool to scoop up waste. At that time, he could hold a mop and broom, pointing at the filthy Qin Feng and shouting, "Retreat! Retreat! Retreat!" Once everyone had reported, Zhao Pengfei began his final summary. Overall, our class was in good shape. Everyone recognized their shortcomings and actively corrected them. Moreover, everyone made varying degrees of progress, which is a positive thing. Making mistakes is not scary. What is frightening is the lack of courage to admit mistakes and correct them. Only by continuously improving and correcting errors can you wash away the superficial and become a qualified soldier. Everyone nodded vigorously, firmly remembering this statement. Qin Feng, here. After calling Qin Feng up, Zhao Pengfei's gaze turned serious again as he addressed the others. Now, we move on to the next agenda of the class meeting. Chapter 41. Class leader, are you jealous? Zhao Pengfei asked Qin Feng, name a number. If you don't get first place in next week's internal affairs evaluation, how many laps will you run on the playground? Faced with this life-threatening question from Zhao Pengfei, Qin Feng's eyelids twitched. In the military, the moving red flag symbolizes collective honor and is linked to the final assessment results of veteran class leaders. The moving red flag is evaluated weekly. The more you earn, the stronger the veteran's ability is shown. As the class vice leader responsible for internal affairs, the pressure naturally fell on him. Therefore, Zhao Pengfei insisted that he must secure first place in internal hygiene next week. If he failed, he would be directly punished. Qin Feng felt quite frustrated. However, the pressure was already on him, and there was no escaping it. The playground in the recruit company measured 400 meters per lap. 3 kilometers would be 7.5 laps. 5 kilometers would be 12.5 laps. Given his current physical condition, he could manage 3 kilometers, but he would have to grit his teeth to run 5 kilometers. However, his system was growth-oriented, and Qin Feng couldn't dramatically improve his fitness level in a short time. 10 laps. Qin Feng hesitated and suggested a number he thought was reasonable. 10 laps? Zhao Pengfei scoffed, glancing at him sideways. Don't you have a bottle of Red Bull in your locker? That stuff will really pump you up, right? Come on. Do you have to hold a grudge like this? I told you I didn't want it, but you insisted I take it. What about 13 laps? Qin Feng tentatively added. 13 laps is just a little over 5 kilometers. Do you think this is like drinking AD calcium milk for kids? Damn it. I'm really fed up. Qin Feng exclaimed. You were the one who told me to keep it in my pocket, saying it was free. so I should take it. Now you're bringing up old scores. Why do I smell something sour? Chen Sanchi twitched his nose. I smell it too, Li Jiaxing whispered in agreement. Sorry. It must be my socks from yesterday that I didn't wash. Qi Ming awkwardly laughed, pulling out a stinky sock from under the mattress and tossing it into the basin. 15 laps then. Qin Feng gritted his teeth and added 2 more laps. Only 15 laps? Zhao Pengfei clicked his tongue and shook his head. Then looked at the others. What do you all think? Is 15 laps enough? Not enough. Everyone seemed to have reached a consensus, shouting in unison. The squad leader and Deputy Qin are so capable. 15 laps are simply an insult to him. I suggest we start with 20 laps, with no upper limit. Looking at Li Jiaxing, who wore a smug expression, Qin Feng really wanted to give him a kick. Damn it, how dare you stab me in the back. However, Li Jiaxing's words quickly received a response from everyone. 21 laps. 22. Let's make it 24 for good measure. A group of guys was like an auction, incrementally increasing the punishment for Qin Feng. Only Chen Sanchi, the big fool, shouted 10 laps for Qin Feng. Qin Feng wanted to shove his head into a toilet bowl to wake him up. 40 laps? Wouldn't he that run someone to death? Zhao Pengfei looked like he was enjoying the show. Qin Feng, that's 40 laps. How about we add 1 more for the squad leader? That is not too much, right? No, it's not too much, Qin Feng said, breaking into a cold sweat. He was beginning to feel a bit anxious because he guessed what kind of tricks were coming next. Sure enough, Zhao Pengfei began to go wild, completely disregarding others. Since we're giving 1 to the squad leader, how about we give 1 to the second platoon leader too, right? Red Bull, fearless and adventurous. After giving 1 to the second platoon leader, didn't the first platoon leader also have to get 1? You like AD calcium milk. I'll buy you a couple of packs later. With all the leaders getting added laps, the numbers kept climbing, making Qin Feng's scalp tingle. Are they trying to run me to death? In the end, Zhao Pengfei settled on a neat total of 50 laps. Moreover, he made Qin Feng stand up and take an oath to prove that this was something Qin Feng insisted on doing, and it had nothing to do with him. Seeing Qin Feng's defeated expression, Li Jiaxing almost burst out laughing. Good thing I stepped back in time. Otherwise, it would be me in trouble now. What does 50 laps even mean? That's a full 20 kilometers, essentially equivalent to running a half marathon. Some might say, isn't it just a half marathon? What's so hard about that? But, my friend, in the military, training is a daily requirement, and those 50 laps are on top of the regular training. It's like multiplying the day's training load by 2 or 3 times. Not to mention, for rookies, even experienced soldiers would find that quite terrifying. After the squad meeting, the squad leader began to randomly check everyone's recitation of the regulations. The method was simple. Start from the first person and have each person recite a line. Those who couldn't would have to either write it 50 times or do 300 push-ups. What is the first duty of a soldier? The first duty is to implement the comprehensive and strict governance of the military and strengthen discipline. The first soldier stammered but managed to recite it. However, when it was Chen Sanchi's turn, he stuttered for ages and couldn't get it out. Push-ups or write it out. Write it out. Get to the side and copy it. Zhao Pengfei bluntly told him to get lost, then continued to check the next person. The third duty, recite. Squad leader, I choose push-ups. Zhao Pengfei was speechless. You haven't memorized a single word, have you? 600. Huh. Qi Ming is completely dumbfounded. Wasn't he at 300? How did it become 600? Are your ears deaf? Zhao Pengfei glared at him. Do you want me to add another 300? I can do it right now. Qi Ming was so scared that he quickly got down on the ground and started doing push-ups, panting heavily. Zhao Pengfei snorted coldly and pointed at everyone. If you can't recite it, it's a problem with your brain. You didn't even try. It's an attitude problem. Later, if anyone is like Qi Ming and can't recite a single word, it's also 600 push-ups. Apart from the first new recruit who managed to please him, the rest were all terrified. Most of them had drifted off while memorizing the regulations. However, this did not include Qin Feng, who was quite serious about memorizing. But just when everyone thought the surprise check was over for today, Zhao Pengfei set his sights on the new recruit at the front again. No way. There's no way to charm your way out of this. Zhao Pengfei was not going to let anyone off the hook. Although this systematic approach seemed to have some rules to follow, after one round, going through it another 2 or 3 times would lead to collective failure. Soldier's duty. Article 11, recite. Article 11, seems to be, follow the rules, Are you just messing around? If you can't recite it, go to the side and write it out as punishment. The new recruit, feeling miserable, dragged a small stool to the side of the bed and, along with Chen Sanchi and others, started writing lines as punishment. The remaining 2 who slipped through quickly stumbled in the second round. Not only could they not recite the content, they hadn't even glanced at it. It would be a miracle if they could recite anything. Now, only Qin Feng was still holding on, seemingly at odds with Zhao Pengfei. Article 13. 13. Follow combat discipline. Obey orders. Listen to commands. 14th, 15th, 16th, 20. Zhao Pengfei furrowed his brows, completely disbelieving. He couldn't believe anyone could have such a good memory. But as a top performer, Qin Feng could indeed keep this up until dawn. However, Qin Feng knew the importance of being low-key in some unnecessary situations. Article 52. The foundation of unit construction is solid during combat, training, or forgot. Good, write it out 50 times. Yes, watching Qin Feng obediently go to right lines. Zhao Pengfei finally showed a pleased expression. Finally, I've turned the tide. I said, it's only been a few days. How could anyone memorize so much? This is a human brain, not a robot. But when he saw the word count for Article 52, his eyes began to twitch uncontrollably. Because this section had a pitifully small number of words, Zhao Pengfei finally realized. This kid, Qin Feng, is deliberately letting it slide, trying to play me? Run. Get moving. Did you not eat dinner? Step faster. Do you have Parkinson's? Can't even run properly. Move quicker. Slap. The armed belt swung through the air and smacked Qin Feng on the backside. In pain, Qin Feng let out a loud cry and shot out like a rocket. On the playground at night, the new recruits from Class 4, who were running 3 kilometers, were all dumbfounded at this scene. Did Brother Feng offend the squad leader somehow? Chen Sanchi's already small eyes were filled with question marks. I don't know. I can't understand it all. Qi Ming shook his head, equally confused. What do you guys know? Li Jiaxing jogged happily, his smile nearly overflowing. Hitting is caring, scolding is love. The squad leader is motivating the deputy in his own way. Us big recruits could never enjoy such treatment. Upon hearing this, everyone immediately responded with a knowing "oh." At the same time, they cast sympathetic and encouraging glances at Qin Feng, who was being pushed to run forward by the squad leader. Meanwhile, Qin Feng ran with gritted teeth, cursing in his heart. Damn Zhao, you have no sense of martial virtue. Chapter 42, Laughing? Why aren't you laughing anymore? Weren't you just laughing loudly? La 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 la. Lura-la-la-la by the pool, Li Jiaxing was rubbing face wash on his face while humming a tune. Occasionally, he would shake his hips a bit, feeling particularly good. Luckily, he had stepped down from the position of deputy squad leader in time. Otherwise, it might have been him getting his butt whipped by the squad leader tonight. Thinking of this, Li Jiaxing shook his head, grinning widely. After working up some more foam, he made a reverse gourd shape on his face. Then, he put his hand on his brow and, with a wink at Qi Ming, imitated the tone of Sun Wukong, saying, "Hey, monster." Seeing him like this, Qi Ming couldn't help but laugh. "Oh, big senior brother. Wrong." Li Jiaxing grinned mischievously. "I am the great sage equal to heaven, the beautiful monkey king. Guess what color the beautiful monkey king's butt is?" I know. The monkey's butt is red. It can even serve as a traffic light when hanging on a tree." Chen Sanchi quickly answered while brushing his teeth. Next to them, Qin Feng, who was washing his face, paused for a moment. "Damn it, who are you guys hinting at?" Seeing that Qin Feng pretended not to hear, Li Jiaxing, with a face full of foam, cheekily leaned over. "Deputy, does your butt still hurt? Do you want me to rub it for you? Maybe some ointment? You brat. Are you itching for a beating?" Qin Feng glared at him. "Ha ha ha. Just kidding, I'm out of here." Li Jiaxing quickly rinsed his face and made a run for it. Hitting is caring, scolding is love. Not hitting or scolding is laziness. Deputy, the squad leader is using love to motivate your progress. Looking at Qi Ming, who spoke so seriously, Qin Feng's eyelids twitched. With all those rhymes, are you planning to take the graduate entrance exam? Soon, Qi Ming finished washing up, packed his things, and left. By the sink, only Chen Sanchi remained, grinning foolishly. Clearly, he was still immersed in the joke about the monkey's red butt. "What the hell are you laughing at?" Qin Feng, filled with irritation, gave him a smack on the head. "Finish washing up and get lost. Next time. If you won't talk, then don't just blurt out nonsense." Chen Sanchi held his head. "But monkey bottoms are originally red. I didn't say your bottom is red." "How bold." Qin Feng raised his leg and kicked, but Chen Sanchi surprisingly dodged it with a jump back. "Oh, come on, you dare to dodge? Hee hee. I knew you were going to kick me. Come here, I won't kick you now. The class vice captain wants to have a heart-to-heart talk about training." Qin Feng waved at him with a smile, looking like a big gray wolf. But Chen Sanchi wasn't foolish and quickly shook his head. "I'm not coming over. If I do, you will definitely beat me." "How could that be? Really?" "Of course, people from Yin country don't lie to each other." "I still don't believe it." "Then do you want someone to teach you how to fold your blanket?" "I do." "Then come over and let me give you a good beating to vent my anger." At 10 o'clock in the evening, the lights out signal was sounded. Each class gradually fell into darkness. As everyone knows, the lights go out at 10 in the military. But when they can actually sleep depends on the mood of the veteran squad leader. In the dormitory, Zhao Pengfei looked at the shadows in front of him and scolded them without holding back. During the 3-kilometer run tonight, the slowest took 17.5 minutes. "Are you all turtles? Huh. With such a level, how can you look like 18 or 19-year-olds? You're worse than an 80-year-old. The 3-kilometer assessment is next week. With such pathetic results, do you really think you can pass?" Zhao Pengfei's words sprayed out like a shower. But no one spoke up, because they had long gotten used to it. After lights out, the squad leader always seemed possessed by something dirty, becoming extremely irritable. Every time before bed, he had to say a few words, scolding everyone until they felt utterly frustrated. Yesterday, he said they were like those with polio, limbs uncoordinated, unable to march properly. The day before, he said they had ADHD, with fleas jumping all over them, always fidgeting in military posture and squatting. In short, these words were like an opening statement. If he didn't say a few lines, he felt uncomfortable all over, as if the following training couldn't proceed. Back in the battlefield, our ancestors relied on their 2 legs to outrun enemy planes and artillery, winning battle after battle. In those days, the old veterans had such difficult conditions and still achieved great glory. Why can't you do the same? Zhao Pengfei then picked 2 new recruits and punched their thighs twice. Running slowly indicates insufficient explosive power in leg muscles. Today, we 1T practice 3 sets of 100. Instead, we'll do targeted exercises for leg muscles. Now, everyone follow me to the corridor. Hearing Zhao Pengfei's words, everyone immediately rushed to the corridor. Although they didn't know what they were going to do, they all understood it definitely wouldn't be anything good. The lighting in the corridor was much better than in the dormitory. At least they could vaguely see Zhao Pengfei's stern face. Brother Feng, what are we going to practice? Chen Sanchi whispered nervously. Qin Feng didn't reply. You'll know soon enough. Zhao Pengfei had everyone line up and continued. Later, everyone will do duck walks back and forth 10 times. Upon hearing the term duck walk, everyone looked confused, except for Qin Feng, whose expression changed slightly. In his past life, he had come across this exercise while watching videos. The duck walk, also known as the short person walk, primarily trains leg muscle strength and body coordination by imitating the way a duck walks. However, behind this seemingly comical and simple action lies an enduring nightmare for countless veterans. In the military, some veteran squad leaders particularly like to use the duck walk as a punishment for rebellious individuals. Just walking a dozen or 20 meters could leave one in agony, feeling as if their legs were no longer their own. Alongside the duck walk, there was also the bunny hop in the military. As the name suggests, it involves hopping like a rabbit. This training is also known as the thigh muscle tearer, and is just as torturous, if not more so, than the duck walk. Sometimes, Qin Feng couldn't help but admire the wisdom of those veteran squad leaders. With names like Little Duck and Little Rabbit, they sounded cute, but the actual practice was nothing short of torment, verging on torture. Now let me demonstrate. Zhao Pengfei squatted down, hands behind his back, and began to learn the duck walk. His comical movements were reminiscent of Ouyang Feng from the movie East Meets West, causing everyone to burst into laughter. Is it funny? Zhao Pengfei glanced sideways, a cold smile on his face. I hope you can still laugh later. Sure enough. 2 minutes later, no one was laughing anymore. Chapter 43. I am a little duck, quack 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 in the corridor at night. The new recruits of Team 4 squatted on the ground, lined up to practice the duck walk. Everyone gritted their teeth, their expressions twisted in pain. Initially, they thought this movement didn't look too hard. However, after just a short distance, each person felt as if their thighs were about to explode, sweating profusely. Before joining the military, most new recruits hadn't trained much at all, let alone systematically worked on their lower body strength. Even those who had spent some time in the gym often neglected leg workouts. This training brought equal suffering to everyone. Even Qin Feng was gritting his teeth, sweat beading on his forehead. With every step forward, it felt as if his thigh muscles were being torn apart. Yet at that moment, he was intensely enjoying the stimulation brought by the pain. The harsher he was on himself, the greater the rewards and progress would be. While the duck walk was torture for others, it was for Qin Feng the best baptism and a catalyst for his rapid growth. Simply put, while others earned 100 in an hour, Qin Feng earned 10,000. One effort, 100-fold reward. ISNT that more invigorating than an adrenaline rush. As soon as he thought of this, Qin Feng felt a surge of power throughout his body. His legs, which had felt as heavy as lead, suddenly became light, and the pain in his muscles eased significantly. In contrast, the others were truly suffering at that moment. I swear, my legs are about to break. I can't go on anymore. This is unbearable. Who the hell came up with this? Damn it. Several new recruits were gritting their teeth and muttering under their breath as they moved forward. But soon, Zhao Pengfei appeared behind them like a ghost. Then, each of them received a sharp smack on the head. You think you can just practice your legs and talk at the same time? Several new recruits covered their heads, wincing in pain. However, it was clear that Zhao Pengfei had no intention of letting them off easily. Since you like to talk so much, I'll give you a chance. Sing a song, that one. I am a little duck, but keep the volume down, go. This is too humiliating. We're grown-ups, singing this kind of stuff? Everyone shut their mouths. Not a single person dared to speak. But Zhao Pengfei wasn't going to let them off the hook. He kicked one of them. Just now. I didn't let you talk, and you were mumbling away. Now that I'm letting you speak, you act like you're mute? Hurry up, I'm a little duck. Get ready, sing. The new recruits of the 4th Squad waddled forward in a duck-like manner, singing the song softly as they painfully moved ahead. Although they sang cheerfully, each of them privately cursed Zhao Pengfei. Even Qin Feng felt that Zhao Pengfei was acting strangely today, like he was up to some mischief. Little did he know, Zhao Pengfei's behavior was actually related to him. With so many nuisances eyeing their own territory, who could feel good about it? But as the squad leader, Zhao Pengfei couldn't vent his frustrations on recruits from other squads. So, naturally, the unfortunate members of his own squad became his outlet. Of course, Zhao Pengfei didn't see his actions as venting. The harsher the training, the greater the progress. When these guys improved their training results later, they would surely thank him for his strictness now. At that moment, in the other 2 dormitories on the 3rd floor, the new recruits doing their own 100 push-ups saw this scene and all struggled to suppress their laughter. Initially, they thought it was bad enough to do physical training in the dormitory after lights out, but they didn't expect others to be even worse off, waddling like ducks and singing nursery rhymes. One had to admit, the 4th Squad leader really knew how to have fun. Thankfully, they weren't in the 4th Squad. Otherwise, they wouldn't have a moment of peace every day. Why are you laughing? Do you find it funny watching them train? Everyone, do another 100 push-ups. Hold the position until the newspaper in front of you is soaked. Then you can move on to the next training. Damn, what a roller coaster of emotions. The new recruits from the 5th and 6th squads were cursing silently in their hearts. But there's nothing to be done. The squad leader's orders are like a decree, and you have to obey even if you don't want to. At this moment, the leaders of the 5th and 6th squads, Zhou Shangfei and another, arrived at the dormitory entrance. Looking at the 4th squad's new recruits struggling to waddle down the corridor, their expressions darkened. It was clear that Zhao Pengfei had pushed this training beyond the limits. It had only been a week since the new training started, and after lights out, they had mostly been doing 100 physical training exercises or standing at attention. How could you have introduced the duck walk this early? Although this training is often referred to as a nightmare that many veterans prefer not to remember, its effectiveness in strengthening abdominal and thigh muscles is undeniable. It's like everyone is diligently working on elementary math problems, and suddenly you throw in some middle school advanced math. Zhao Pengfei, what do you mean by this? As Zhao Pengfei passed by the door, the 5th squad leader grabbed him. What do you mean? Zhao Pengfei shrugged. Aren't we all doing physical training? You call this physical training? Zhou Shangfei came over, clearly displeased. It's only been a few days, and you've already introduced the duck walk? Is this the pace you want to set? Ha, right. Zhao Pengfei didn't even pretend. I just want to outdo you all. What's the matter? Not happy about it. The faces of the 5th squad leader and Zhou Shangfei immediately turned sour. Zhao Pengfei. Everyone is following the training plan given by the company commander, gradually increasing the training intensity. If you suddenly ramp it up like this, aren't you afraid of injuring the new recruits? Zhao Pengfei didn't care at all. The soldiers in my squad, I'll train them however I want. Can you stop me? If you have the ability, you can do the same. I'm not stopping you. Who knows, in a few days, I might just lead them into tactical training. Damn. Tactical training is supposed to be scheduled for a month and a half from now. You're bringing it in during the first week. Are you really trying to outdo everyone? You should know that the new training is also a test of the veteran's ability to lead. If you take the lead in pushing hard, and we don't keep up, the company commander might think we're all slacking off. Fine, Zhao Pengfei, you said it. The 5th squad leader pointed at him. Old Zhao, you started this. Don't come asking us for help when it gets tough. Zhou Shangfei also sneered, throwing down a harsh remark. Is it just about pushing hard? As if anyone can't do it. Zhao Pengfei scoffed, completely disregarding their words. While the new recruits all follow a unified training plan, there's no rule against making adjustments. If you want to achieve results and stand out, you can't just follow the routine. Zhao Pengfei has his own way of training. Although his methods are a bit harsh, they are definitely effective. A few more sessions of the duck walk will significantly improve the leg muscle endurance and explosive power of the 4th squad. When the 3-kilometer baseline assessment comes around, their squad will definitely perform exceptionally well. Enduring hardships is the way to rise above others. This has always been Zhao Pengfei's life philosophy. He is confident that as long as the new recruits in the 4th squad continue training his way, in 3 months, their assessment results will surely be among the top 3 in the company, if not the very best. At that time, everyone would be able to get assigned to a decent squad as they wished. Then this squad leader would have fulfilled his responsibilities. Meanwhile, under the streetlight in the camp, Bai Yuan suddenly stopped. With a loud slap, he felt a sting on his face. Looking down, he found a mosquito in his palm. It's already autumn, yet there are still so many mosquitoes. Bai Yuan took out a bottle of baby oil from his pocket. He sprayed it on the spot where the mosquito had bitten him and then walked towards the new recruit's dormitory. Good evening, instructor. The duty officer on duty stood up and saluted him. Bai Yuan responded with a grunt, moving his hand but not his shoulder, and turned his head slightly to return the salute, striding toward the building. But just as one foot stepped onto the stairs, he suddenly heard a chilling and sorrowful children's song coming from upstairs. I am a little duckling quack quack oh. Chapter 44. Delicious instant noodles are here. Zhao Pengfei. You are simply unbelievable. In the corridor, Bai Yuan wore a stern face and criticized Zhao Pengfei seriously. He raised his left hand and tapped his watch forcefully. Look at what time it is now. It's already 11 o'clock, and you are still in the corridor making the new recruits do physical training? Training is fine, but who told you to sing? Other squads were not allowed to sleep. No need for rest. Is there no training tomorrow? Instructor, I was wrong. Zhao Pengfei kept nodding in apology and thought to himself, next time, I won't dare. Bai Yuan glanced in the direction of the dormitory and changed to a more earnest tone. It's not that I don't allow you to train, but if you want to train, you should do it during the day. What's the use of studying late at night with the lights on? The new recruits just finished washing up, and if they turn around and practice until they sweat, how can they lie down to sleep? The higher-ups have repeatedly stated that training is not allowed after lights out. You make it difficult for me. Looking at Zhao Pengfei, who was being reprimanded by the instructor in the corridor, the new recruits in the 4th squad were all delighted, their faces full of schadenfreude. Serves you right. Letting you torment us, now you get scolded by the instructor, huh? Li Jiaxing seemed to release a lot of pent-up frustration, feeling extremely comfortable. Qin Feng glanced at him. Are you serious? Huh, what do you mean? Li Jiaxing didn't understand, but there were some quick-witted ones who immediately caught on. Vice squad leader, are you saying they are just putting on a show? No way. It doesn't look like it, right? The instructor has always been pretty good to us. If he hadn't spoken up, we would still be outside singing, right? Qin Feng looked at the two talking outside the window and said lightly, we've been in the army for so many days. Which night after lights out Haven Tea, we trained until after 11? Do you think the instructor wouldn't know after all this time? Oh, Qi Ming immediately realized. If they wanted to come early, they could have. How many days have we been training? Clearly, they're just putting on a show for us. Oh my. Li Jiaxing, realizing the truth, broke out in a cold sweat. I always thought the instructor was on our side. Qin Feng looked at him as if he were an idiot. Would the school's head instructor stand on the student's side? With this analogy, Li Jiaxing suddenly understood everything. In fact, he had really believed that the instructor was on the side of the new recruits. When he first arrived, the instructor had publicly helped him out in the cafeteria over a noodle incident, and he felt quite grateful towards the instructor. Later, he even thought that if the squad leader dared to trouble him again, he would secretly go to the instructor to report it. Now, after hearing Qin Feng's words, Li Jiaxing felt a chill run down his spine. Luckily, he hadn't made a foolish move back then. If he had really gone to report to the instructor would have turned around and sold him out. One can only say that the military has many intricate ways and methods. Fortunately, after observing for these past few days, Qin Feng had roughly understood some of it. In the military, the leaders mainly responsible for training are usually like powder kegs, ready to explode at any moment. Although they might not have such a personality in private, they must be fierce when the situation calls for it. The reason is simple. If you are all smiles and polite, no one will fear you. Many of the young recruits are seen as mischievous and not well behaved by their parents and classmates. Such individuals often have rebellious personalities, responding better to tough love than gentle coaxing. A fiery temper naturally needs to be paired with an instructor who appears warm and friendly, like the big brother next door. This way, one can play the tough guy while the other plays the nice guy. Although this tactic seems somewhat childish to a seasoned professional like Qin Feng, it is indeed very effective against these inexperienced young people, especially someone like Li Jiaxing, who is a bit naive and straightforward. A few words of persuasion, and he would genuinely consider you one of his own. Of course, as long as you don't make any mistakes or do anything foolish, there usually won't be any major issues. Alright, everyone, hurry up and lie down. Before sleeping, massage your thighs to prevent cramps in the morning, Qin Feng instructed. After lying down, he began to vigorously pound his thighs to relax his leg muscles. The others quickly caught on and started to massage and relax themselves as well. After such intense leg training, stretching and relaxing are essential. Otherwise, lactic acid would build up, and by the next morning, it would be unbearable. Qimeng, you should have some experience with stretching muscles. Help the others relax after you're done, Qin Feng said. Got it. No problem, Qimeng replied, jumping off his bed to assist the others with their muscle relaxation. For most people, they actually don't know how to effectively stretch and relax their muscles, often just hitting them randomly. However, as a martial arts student, muscle stretching and relaxation are a necessary preparation before every practice, so Qimeng had more experience. At this moment, Zhao Pengfei had just sent the instructor off and returned to the dormitory. Seeing everyone helping each other with leg massages and relaxation, he was taken aback. Originally, he had planned to remind everyone to massage and stretch before bed, but unexpectedly, this kid Qin Feng had thought of it first and had fully utilized the big guy Qimeng. Zhao Pengfei felt greatly relieved. The more charismatic and capable the deputy squad leader was, the easier his job as squad leader would be. It seems that I really chose the right person for this vice class leader. Zhao Pengfei didn't say much, just reminded everyone to make the most of their time, and then went out with a basin from under the bed. Although I didn't know what he was up to, as long as the class leader wasn't around, the atmosphere in the dorm instantly became lively. It was just like a self-study class without a teacher watching. A bunch of people were lying on their beds, chatting and joking around. I really missed the time at home when I could open the fridge, take out a green bean ice cream, enjoy the air conditioning, and play games. It was simply delightful. What's so great about popsicles? If it were me, I would crack open a bottle of chilled beer, get some duck necks and heads, and enjoy a game while sipping on beer. What's the point of drinking beer at home?